been in events management for a while. So I welcome you, Mr. Cowan. Next to Mr. Cowan, I have Mr. McKenna, Kevon McKenna, also in events management and has been involved with the Scarborough Secondary alumni and cultural activities. And in fact, he was the THA's consultant for a Tobago Carnival sometime last year before. Then we have Mr. Tomley Roberts, painter, artist, visual artist, and he has been quite foremost in the space for a while. In fact, if you walk around this complex, I'm sure you will see some of his works hanging on the walls. And he's also a teacher at Speyside High School, might I add, one of the better schools on the island. Let me put a plug in there. And then on the right of me, I have Mr. Elvis Rajman, who is the CEO of TPAC. And many of you, your first interaction with TPAC would have been with the recently held Bitter Cassava production and how well that went. So I welcome Mr. Rajman as well. Next to Mr. Rajman, I'm a Charlottesville girl here. She tell me she had no ice cream home by she for me, and she vexed with me, but that is okay. But she puts on what I believe is the best heritage production on the island year after year in the Charlottesville Heritage Festival Natural Treasures Day. Something is just alluring about what happens there in Charlottesville. And if there is no one else that knows and understands culture, is Miss Annette Alfred. Itsy Bitsy Theatre as well. Ran the culture department for a while. You know, she is a household name. She took over from the JD Elders and those folks. In fact, she learned at his feet. And next to her, I have a former classmate of mine. We sat in many hot classrooms at Bishop's doing lit with Miss Brathwaite and others, and finding ways to go around our teachers. And now he's a filmmaker, having done postgraduate work in filmmaking. Perhaps our most extensively trained filmmaker on the island, perhaps in the history of the island, Mr. Jared Primer. And next to him, of course, is my girl, Kimmy Potts. I just have to stop talking to she sometimes. But Miss Kimmy Potts, she works in the Festival Commission. She is a dancer in the space. She is an alumni of St. Augustine campus of the University of the West Indies. And so tonight I have several young creatives in this space. And of course, I have a seasoned veteran in Miss Annette. And we are going to be talking about the creative sector. And yes, we're starting a little later than normal. In fact, I could tell you, I rushed there minutes to 8 after ending the last face-to-face meeting on the budget. Quite an extensive day we have had. We started this morning with the contractors, and then we had the private sector that included bankers and insurance agents and tourism agency. The two chambers of commerce that we have, Tobago is so blessed. We can't even have one chamber of commerce. We have two chambers of commerce and chambers of commerce. And of course, after that, I had some divisional meetings as we tie up the loose ends with regards to the budgeting for the new fiscal year. When I walk through this space, and tonight we're coming live from the Shore Park Cultural Complex. When I first came into this space as Chief Secretary on December 13, 2021, the first question I asked Mr. Rajman, who is on the right of me, was, how do we monetize this? How do we make money from it? That was the first question I asked. How do we make money from this? And tonight we're looking at that. Make it make sense. How do we make money from the creative sector? And we have people from different parts of the creative sector here. We have the backstage people, the people who does call along the big artists and them and bring them and fill up here in his presence and so on. We have those who are on stage performing, like Kimmy Potts. We have those who are into the visual arts, like you, Mr. Roberts. And we, of course, we have people like Mr. Rajman, who at one time danced and all of that, but now doing backstage and of course directors like Jared Primer and Miss Annette. So I think I will start with the young lady among us, Kimmy Potts. Creative sector in Tobago. Are we where we need to be right now?
I do not think that we are where we need to be right now. I believe that the island itself is bursting with potential, people who are willing to put in the work, but I don't think that the performers themselves are given enough respect or even just the buy-in from the general public to be where we should be. And next thing too is that what most people don't understand is that the creative industry needs investment, not just time, but we need capital. And that is where most of us are going wrong, or maybe one of the reasons why we are where we are today, because somebody will call you, I just need a little dance. What is a little dance? Like, there's no such thing as a little dance. And you might call a price. You may say, okay, $500 for the performance, and they might be like, why are you charging so much? But they don't know that you have to rehearse. That's a cost attached. You have to get costume. That's also a cost attached. And then there's a performance fee. So they don't factor in those things. And because of that, it kind of turn us off from wanting to do more. And to be quite honest, because I've been in this space since I know myself, if the right investment was given then, I believe that the orange economy of Tobago could have been in a much better position than it is right now.
So you are new school. Allow me to go old school.
No problem.
Because you may see some challenges today, but Miss Alfred, who was around town long time and have experienced the highs and lows of the industry for a while, I'm wondering if she has seen improvements in how the island views the creative sector, if she sees people making more money now than they did when she was a young girl, a teen, a young adult in the industry. Have you seen improvements, Miss Annette?
First, let me let you know that I can't even remember when I was a teen, so don't bother to go fighting
Don't go so far.
Don't go so far. However, Tobago for me was better off many years ago. It was better off in the form that, well, we did not make much money, but I think we got more support from the powers that be to do whatever we were doing. Tobago would have had a number of cultural groups. Tobago would have had people playing in the hotels, because they were hotels, so people played there. Tobago had an opportunity because at school we were taught about our culture. You are not seeing this at all now. I don't know if or why we don't have teachers doing that type of thing, teachers and tutors. When I worked at culture not too long ago, we had the tutors and teachers. There was this interaction between schools, or education I should say, and the culture. That seems to be totally absent now. I am not seeing it. So my little grandchildren are suffering from the absence of that kind of training. I could see talent in especially one of them, but where is the opportunity for him? Why doesn't our curriculum respond to the call for us to learn what is ours, so that we can make some money out of it? That is bothering me.
And let me go to the non-performance side of things now. People who have been at the background, planning, organizing, people who have organized big concerts in the space, who have brought foreign acts, who try to put on shows and make this space usable. Are you seeing as if we are going somewhere? Where are we today in terms of the creative sector?
Well, from the standpoint of a promoter and someone who is part of the bedrock of building the industry, it has been a very, very hard fight. Funding has always been something that is non-existent. Many times, you write hundreds of letters and you get responses from 6. And some who would tell you they'll sponsor a case of water. Mind you, you have a big bill. Then when the show is actually happening, half your tickets are giveaway tickets because the sponsors want 10 tickets for the friends, 10 tickets for the staff, 100 tickets for this. But they're giving you $10,000. But your bill is $500,000. And the expectation of quality is still there. So you have to provide quality with very minimal support. Support has always been the missing element in the foundation of what we do. So much so in the gospel arena, it is even harder because bigger sponsors, more corporate entities, they have regulations or quote-unquote unspoken rules that they can't support religious events without neglecting the other. So just don't support any. So again, you have this $500,000 that you are, a bill that you have to see in front of you, and you cross your fingers and hope that you have enough ticket sales to cover these things. We walk by faith, not by sight. Amen. But that is in its element to ensure that you get to the place of bringing forth the product that you believe in. And Tobago has been that harness that has that potential. Shore Park in itself, and before Shore Park, there are many other places that you do what you have to do, you know, but it has been a tremendous fight. And after the brand itself built, it created its own element and started drawing its own attraction. But still, the support is very, very, very minimal because you keep hitting that ceiling as to the type of artist that you could bring in and the type of artist that you can afford, because that is all that you are able to get, because the seed money is not there. There is no seed money, you know, so you have to do what you have to do. And that's on one side. On the other side, working with the local artists is also a major part of who I am, you know, and working with artists like Positive and Blessed Messengers and many others have gone before. We remember getting paid with cake and ice cream, you know, juice in the background. That was what you got, you know. And when you, in those days gone by, when you would tell a promoter, pastor, or even an entity like the THA that your cost is $5,000, they'll ask you why. Why do I have to pay $5,000 for you? Why do I have to pay $200 for you? There's a lack of understanding of what the creative sector brings to the plate of an individual who believes in what he can do. His essence of who he is has a cost. That is who he is. That is his talent that he's bringing forth that can be a major money maker. But here's the flip side to it. When you go outside of this sphere, when you leave home, there is a certain respect that you get that we hope that we could get at home as well. Yeah.
Well, that's quite interesting, you know. And although you have perhaps been the only one to almost fill this place, or probably fill it, this venue, to see that you still experience those challenges notwithstanding, it speaks to a deeper problem we have in the society about an appreciation for the arts. And talking about that appreciation for the arts, I think no other school in Tobago does it better than Speyside High School when it comes to the arts. I know there are alumni members, some other schools here, and I love my bishops. Go and stay.
Yeah.
But when it comes to both the performing arts and more so the visual arts, and sometimes we forget them out of the conversation. And when we're talking visual arts, we're talking our painters, our sculptors, we're talking our fashion designers as well, those that create the visuals in the space. If the performing arts are feeling so challenged, what about the visual arts, those in the visual arts?
Well, we are also feeling those challenges, all right, but we are not daunted. But what I would like to say is that I think it's of paramount importance that we really invest, and the investment must come from the government. In this case, it would be the Tobago House of Assembly. I think we really need to make that type of investment to support the initiatives. Another factor we also need to look at is education, all right? Ms. Annette hinted on it, right? But we really need to have artisans in all spheres really do some sort of mentorship on one hand and training on the other hand. Because let's say, for example, we really want to push the orange economy, but if we are to formulate an orchestra right now for tomorrow, can we go in every single school and pull out 40 students and who could read music and so forth? And no. So what that means immediately, as the administration, we need to put some measures in place to ensure that we have this type of training so that we can harness all the possibilities for our students. In the area of visual arts, I think visual arts has not been supported as it should be supported in Tobago, in Trinidad and Tobago, I guess globally. But I want us to do things differently. I want Tobago to really step out and really show the world how we are supposed to pay homage to our creative sector, to our visual artists. We must invest that fund in building sculptures to identify our icons and so forth. You know, have these things established. When you travel all over the world, you go to see artifacts, you go to see different things, you go to have an experience. And we have such a rich experience here in Tobago. We need to find a way to exhibit that. And by capturing sculptures, having exhibitions, having a space dedicated to the visual arts, I'll be very specific here, to the visual arts, so that people can come in, pay money, look at artwork, and so forth. They can go up the fort, look at a beautiful statue of probably Calypso Rose or some sort of cultural icon. So the arts, visual arts, has not been supported as it should, but I am hoping that out of this budget, that we can really see some serious investments so that we are able to really harness some tangibles. I think we've spent so much money as a country, we don't really have anything to show for it, right? So, but if you invest, let's say a couple millions in certain things like sculptures, painting, parks, and so forth, those are going to be there for eternity. And people will come from wherever they're coming from to see these things. So I think that type of investment need to take place so that we are able to really, really project our country and really be true beneficiaries of the orange economy.
Well, I realize you're in the smart and waste no time. You just it's straight for the jugular. You want some money for the visual arts. You want space for the visual artists. You want us to invest in public artwork that will help to beautify the space, that
Most
will help
definitely.
to generate interest and activity. I mean, people spend millions every year to look at a metal radio tower in Paris called the Eiffel Tower.
Correct.
People spend millions going out to a statue in New York. So you're talking about built heritage, built art platforms that can be used to generate economic activity in and around them.
Correct.
And so I see your point, but you also made a point earlier about where we are in terms of arts in education. And a very concerning point. Ms. Annette, you raised it as well. Very, very concerning, because you gave an example. If you want to form an orchestra today, can we find 40 students across the Tobago space who can read music well at an optimal level and can just come into a space, you give them schools and you begin to work with them in an orchestra? And if the answer to a question like that is no, we now need to take another look at our arts in education program and how we budget for that.
But I personally also think that accountability also needs to lay on the artists or the students, for lack of better words, because where I sit, where I work, I know that we've spent money on things and we do not see where we invest the money. The quality is very poor. And I'm not saying that this is across the board. I'm saying that as artists, we also need to understand that the monies that the government is going to give us in the near future and have given us in the past, whether it be $2 or 2 cents, we also need to cherish it and put our best foot forward. Some of us just do it just because we know we can get the quick cash, and then the quality is not where it should be. And then that in turn makes us look like we don't have anything to offer, and that makes it harder for the general public to respect us and for even the government to take us seriously. I feel like most times in the art in the industry, the rotten apples really spoil the whole bunch for everybody.
Well, I mean, and I'm trying not to be too specific, I don't want people to feel offended.
Right.
You know, they could feel offended easily when a politician says it.
Yeah.
But recently in this space, I am looking at groups of people who thrive on grants
Yeah.
in the performing arts space. And I look at the quality of work and I'm saying, come on, change your business model. Your business model cannot be to make profits on account of grants.
Exactly.
Your business model has to be that my work is so incredibly good that people want to pay money for that work.
Yeah.
You know, and so across the board, we have to change that business model.
Agreed.
The first time I interacted with Mr. Rajman in any detailed way would have been when we had this Speyside Folk Performance. And we put on what was perhaps the first out of heritage production. As in we were purposeful in Speyside in saying we putting on a production and we don't want it in heritage time.
Right.
And this production I think happened when in probably sometime October. It was in October thereabout. And Mr. Rajman came to Speyside with a team. We had Axback, Titus there as our principal doing the script and so on. We had our costuming, he brought people to teach us the drumming, the dances and all of those things, and we had such an impressive production outside of the heritage season that it led to us for at least 2 years straight having a contract with Cocoa Reef, going to Cocoa Reef every single Saturday night. Every single Saturday night. I wasn't dancing, eh? I always find myself in the managerial side of things. Me and dancing. I cannot have two left foot.
Right.
But we carrying people down there, doing those same bamboo dances, them girls standing up on bamboo and gyrating and all kind of thing they're doing, all kind of fanciful thing they're doing, coming out of the work that Mr. Rajman and a team from Quality Department did in terms of outreach to the community. Mr. Rajman, I am not sure we have that kind of outreach still happening. I am not sure why we stopped or why we paused it, but should we resume that kind of outreach, those kind of outreach efforts? Is it something worth the while? How do we take the culture to the next step where, one, we are able to retain what we have in terms of institutional knowledge, traditional knowledge, folk knowledge, and at the same time evolve the art form as it needs to be evolved?
So I see culture is to Tobago what oil and gas is to Trinidad. For those who came to the belly of what culture is, especially you made mention to Speyside, you see passion, commitment, and value. One of the biggest issues we have within the island is that we don't value. And that value system, it trickles up and it trickles down. So therefore, I wear many hats as a practitioner, as an administrator, and as a businessman. No one is going to invest in something that they don't see it as worthwhile. I remember growing up, my father and I went into bitter wars because he saw, what are you going to do being a dancer? There's no future there. What are you going to do being a dramatist or a singer? Because there's no future there. But then that has permeated within the society. So therefore, parents are not really encouraging their children to even do that. So therefore, when you look at the school system, because my friend Tomlin made mention about music. When we talk about music, in today's world, who is using a flute? Who is using a recorder? All of us come through the system, and that is what we know. We are not actually even utilizing the instrument that is applicable to today's world. So therefore, the average young person, and Mrs. Alfred made mention to it, when myself and many others came to the rank and file of the performing arts 25 years ago, Tobago was a very different place. So it was when we left school at 3 in the afternoon, and we go and we sweep the yard, and we leave, sweep the yard, and we clean up the place. You want to get out of the house by 5:36 because the community center you're gonna go. That has changed. Because one, people are doing, your average child is doing 3 and 4 lessons on an afternoon. So they have no time for that. Their parents are actually doing 2 jobs, journeying to Scarborough, so they don't have the luxury of time to having communities function as the way communities used to be. So therefore now you find now these sort of village activities, these sort of community groups actually struggling to actually maintain any kind of membership to do anything. And then if it's that you have a child who's going and he started off at 20 persons and by the end of the 3 weeks period it dwindles down to 3 or 4, then they're fight it again. So therefore we really need to, so there's education, but there's also value. Because we don't value, so people will not choose to respect Mr. Kawan and pay his artist the $5,000 because they find that is some little thing you're gonna do there, pay them $200. But we need to deal with the education because even within the school system, and if we're talking, we're gonna talk the thing, even within the school system has become so polarized, where teachers who are paid by the state to teach our younger generation about tradition, culture, maths, English, and everything else as they pay to do, and they choose not to. So therefore, you've had the situations now where you don't have that very bedrock base of the education being really driven and supporting what is necessary for people to grow culturally and be very culturally aware. So those things are important. So therefore, the Department of Culture, over the years, they took lead on it. We followed through from Mrs. Alfred, and we continued the program, but there was much more to be done. Because just think about it. You going into a school to teach dance, drama, or music, and you know we have to teach dance? On that kind of tree. Because there's no facility to really adequately have people even train in any real kind of way. And then, so you have those kind of support base lacking. And 2, for those who would have break through from that and would have gone on to different levels, whether it be tertiary and otherwise, there are very little opportunities that was created within the framework of the systems here that people could even pursue a career. So why would someone want to be a dancer or a singer or a film or this or the other? In today's world, the younger generation, you have to show me it before they could believe it. So if you can't tell someone to get into music or tell someone to get into acting or dancing or film, when you can't show them what are the real possibilities of that. And that's why I'm happy that TPAC has been able to lead the way in showing and creating an upward stream, if you want to call it that, of careers that people could now aspire to. We had a session at Magdalena, and when we heard about the response of the younger generation, about people saying, this is what I want to do, because before that, all we could have really done is what we do seasonally.
Yep.
And we can't build an industry or sustain any industry if we're doing anything seasonal.
Yeah.
So those are some of the steps that we need to kind of really undertake in order to get some real action where this is concerned.
I joked earlier about Jared and I being in class together. And when I saw the Bitter Cassava play, and first time I spoke to the team backstage, I made a point in Jared's presence that when we were in school, many of us did not think that careers in the creative arts made sense. C-E-N-T-S. And if it ain't making sense, for the young person.
Yeah.
Because at one time I said, maybe I'll become a writer. Because I loved writing, I was a good at prose and so on. But you just think that doesn't make sense. Let me do what makes sense. And what makes sense is the lawyer, the doctor, the teacher, and God forbid the politician too.
God forbid.
I'm just joking. It's an honorable profession. I've made it honorable. but I'm so happy to have someone like Jared here who stuck it out. He taught at one time. He was teaching literatures in English and English language. At one time, we were busy sharing notes on Othello, and then he ups and leave and go on and do film. And leave the teaching altogether. I have left and now in politics. But Jared, what can we do? What ought we to be doing to inspire more careers in the creative arts? When you look around the space today, there are people becoming multi-millionaires overnight from the arts. Don't talk about those from the African continent.
Yeah.
Those
Nollywood.
African countries, Nollywood, they are doing
And
sketches
Bollywood.
on their
And
phone.
Bollywood.
I see young filmmakers in Africa using less than smartphones and creating films and doing effects.
Yep.
And big companies around the world are seeing that and now sponsoring them and giving them monies and pouring investments into them. TikTok has caused the world to start doing a lot of African dances. So we no longer see them as just barefoot and dancing in some dirt patch somewhere in Africa. We now seeing it as being trendy and culturally appropriate and so on, even styles and fashions and so on. But our young people are missing that train.
Yep.
I'm not seeing our young people on the train. I mean, where is our version of young brother? Just to think about it, where is our version of young brother? Where is our social media influencer that is able to generate income for his family, for our community, for an industry, from right here in the Tobago space? I don't know, what do we need to do to inspire those young people?
Well, so many things kind of came to mind listening to everyone. And the main one is that we have to change the mindset. On the ground, it is still believed that the arts cannot sustain someone. And if this space believes that, then it's very difficult for any young person, and they may have the world of talent, but it's really hard to come out of quicksand. It is really very hard to do that. So what we need to do is we need to start changing the ground, creating a space that supports this. And then of course we have to start thinking broadly, not singularly, but also singularly. And let me explain what I mean by that. Broadly meaning, let's start talking about the model. And I did a little reading on some models, and it was sad that there is a model called the welfare model that we seem to follow, which is, well, they will give you a little handout, they'll give you a little grant, and we could do it, but we really can't sustain ourselves. And we need to start thinking about ourselves, and this is the singular part, as the brand. So each performer, each artist, each person is the brand. I want you to start thinking that way, things that Kimmy spoke about, which is bringing up the production value, bringing up your own craft. That helps to get us somewhere. But then now, we have to start thinking singly as one island. What do we want to achieve through the creative industries? What can we do? What space can we create for the young people who are coming up? And you're quite right, because we have a number of avenues now. I mean, there are actually some young people in Bishops who found their way into doing animation, and now they're getting paid from Google AdSense. So they have found ways to make them money on the side and so on. So these are the things that we could perhaps start teaching. We need to start teaching not just the importance of culture, because that's the bedrock, as Annette Alfred said, as Elvis Rajman said. Or we also need to start thinking that what we own, this thing that is ours, actually has monetary value. And let's start thinking now, as brand, as business, how can we now move it forward?
I wish more people understand that there's money to be made in the brand that is
I
Tobago
want to say something.
and the
here.
things that is Tobago. Go ahead, Miss Annette.
If our curriculum does not cater for those subjects, where do we start? So we need to have our curriculum changed. Tobago's history and heritage must be taught. And those same things we are talking about, the violin, what we call the fiddle, and the tambourine, are supposed to be taught in Tobago schools. The tambourine and the fiddle must be taught because they belong to us. And as far as I know, fiddling and tambourine belong to us alone. What have we been doing to ensure that those things that we develop, we're losing them? Golden Lane and Cologne, Lekoto, the home of those arts. You could hardly find somebody who is doing that type of thing. What does our curriculum say to that? So, Mr. Chief Secretary, your education department and and your culture department have work to do.
You know, some years ago, I carried a motion to the House. It wasn't passed. I carried a motion to the House asking that we make it mandatory, that we in our curriculum that we teach Tobago history, heritage, linguistics, and so on. And what was interesting is that a couple people met me and they say, Father, there's a great plenty things you're saying, but you really want to go to the people's school and teach them Tobago dialect and Tobago Creole for talk bad. But they missed the whole point of the conversation, which was about identity. You can't begin to monetize the creative sector in any society if we do not pay attention to that thing called identity. There's a reason why the whole Caribbean is viewed as Jamaica. When we are not, and people think that the whole Caribbean is a monolith, is a homogeneous society, and we are all one, and the culture is the same from Bahamas to Guyana, and it's all Jamaican culture. And that's because they have been so confident in the castle of their own skin. They have been unapologetic about who they are, that their music have found world dominance, that people are imitating their linguistic attributes, their foods have found dominance, their colors have found dominance, their Jampro, which is their version of export TT, they have developed something called Buy Jamaica, for Jamaica, and they insist on putting a little Jamaican flag on all the authentic products, so you know it's authentically Jamaican and made to the best practice and standard. But all of that comes from a sense of who you are, knowing who you are, and being confident in that. So when I carried emotion, it really and truly was to say, look, I should not know about Sandy the slave when I leave high school. And to be honest with you, I was a top history student. I mash up history, CXC, mash it up, Cambridge A-levels, not Cape, you know. That is little pie thing. Cambridge A-levels out in England, right? And only when I left high school, I actually read up and spent some time on Sandy the slave. I was learning about Sam Sharp in Jamaica over my own history and heritage.
I know it's Kevon's turn, but I just wanted to slip in here. Why, when we go to Trinidad for Best Village or any other project, everybody wants to hear the speech band? Everybody. It's a selling point. They want the speech band. It's only Tobago have speech band, but we ain't pushing it. We ain't pushing it. Jamaicans pushing their thing, but we are not pushing ours.
But Mrs. Alfred, but just to weigh in there, there's a place for all of those things. I think there's a place for the tradition, but it's how we interrogate those traditions for those traditions to speak to the evolving world that is today. The Jamaicans did it. They did it because one of the things that this island, notwithstanding that we don't have that sort of very solid foundation within our education system, but we have still been able to break through. Whenever Tobago goes, I have traveled with this, representing this island all over the world. All over the world. So yes, within the little circle that we have here, is all people that suppress our thing, you know. That is we that suppress the thing. Whenever we go out, whether it be in Trinidad, whether it be in the region, or it be international, and we put out any kind of product, it shines through. And notwithstanding the fact that we don't have the kind of support as we ought to, we still shine through. So the point I'm making is that we have the raw content. We have the raw content
It's
here.
about packaging
and it's not correct.
taking it, being consistent.
But it's also knowing time and place. When do we use the raw content in its most traditional and most rustic form to celebrate and kind of really showcase a certain kind of thing? But then when do we interrogate it and let it evolve into something else, tell a different story? And that is what I think we also need to do, because one of the things that we have done in the past, and I came from that school, I always say Miss Alfred is my mentor. I was her right-hand person. She's right here, and she knows this. But one of the things that we have also failed to do is that it's not enough to simply stay in what we are accustomed doing, but how do we now use the speech band? How do we now use the fiddle? How do we now use the tambourine? And let that evolve into a new sound, a sound that people can kind of really adapt to in this new age. And I think more time needs to be spent on those things, because for the most part, the tradition is here. most of our older folks haven't died out just yet. They're
lot
still
of
here.
them have.
No, but a lot of them have. But luckily, people like Mrs. Alfred and others, because I came through the rank and file of of Tante and Mr.
Modella.
James Murray and Modella. And they passed those traditions on to me. That's what they call Pembroke, the cultural basket of Tobago. So it's there.
But what
was that?
You all call it
No, before we have an argument about where the cultural basket is.
Pembroke.
Right?
No.
I understand what both sides are saying.
Yeah.
There is a place for the teaching of the knowledge in its authentic self, so that we could have posterity and we could keep the thing. We need to also do more of what Miss Alfred did in terms of documenting it in a book and having the songs on tape, so that it's here for a long time. We're not doing enough writing as a people at all.
Documentary.
Or documentary
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
film.
Yeah.
Documentaries are excellent for being able to, so even if nobody is doing it 20, 30 years from now, we can always look back and say, oh, they used to
And
do
that's
this.
important.
And somebody could pull it up and do it again. Right? You could have cultural renaissance in the future. I want to bring in the conversation now one of my arch rivals in terms of school alumni. I know we're not going to have an argument about Capture the Flag and why bishops will not be in Capture the Flag this year, but
We will not be.
but
We will not be.
but I have to throw that at you. But Mr. McKenna, you have been in this space and you did some academic work in carnival studies, which is not necessarily the study of carnival specifically, but really the study of festivals in general and how festivals work in a space. I have had the good fortune since coming into office to having a sit down with Dr. Liverpool, who heads that program that you did at UTT. And we discuss some of the same thing, the raw opportunities that exist in the Tobago space and what we should be doing to monetize those things. As a young, influential person in the space, as someone who have successfully held events in the space, as someone who have done some postgraduate work in festivals and what they can mean for an economy, and as a person who did the consultancy work for the THA, with the development of a Tobago Carnival, which we're looking to have in October. The question I have for you is, what do we need to do to take what we have been doing to the next level? What do I mean by that? We have had heritage for as long as I know myself.
35.
Where you started?
35 or 36.
35 or 36. So,
35, some from 35.
36.
This
36
year.
this year.
Yeah.
So of the 41 years of the THA, we have 35 years straight of heritage. We have had carnival every February till the carnival now probably kind of stale out. I mean, I just got camp anyway, so it don't really matter to me, right? We have the upcoming carnival in October. Tobago, if Tobago has a chance, we have a fete or a festival every weekend, every long weekend. Something is happening. We have had Dragon Boat Festival. We have Fisherman Fete. We have Harvest. By the way, Speyside Harvest, 31st of July will be the return of Harvest to Tobago. Just saying it. Right?
And what happened yesterday? What happened
Harvest.
yesterday?
It didn't return yet. That's a little pie small thing. Right? It will return the 31st of July in full. But the point is, if Tobago has a chance, we have a festival, we have an activity, we have an event every other weekend or so. So what do we need to do to now elevate that, to not just be the land of many festivals, but the land of festivals that are done right, that can result in actual monetary return and quality? How do we get to that next level?
All right, so I'll start off by asking the question, what is a bishops? Right.
So
Disrespect.
we put you off on stage. Or? Go ahead. Yes, go ahead.
I think the Secretary for Education has started the process, because I think she would have announced if it was Monday, to have a more Tobago-centric curriculum, which is exactly what everybody here is speaking to. And if we are to effect change, sometimes to change a culture, it will take about 2 years. And to do that change, you have to educate people. we have to educate. For example, if you walk out just in Scarborough right now and ask any random person, what you have to do, or where should I go? Automatically they will tell you Pigeon Point. And that is no fault of theirs, because we have not really taught them what are our tourist sites.
Pirates Bay.
Right, we have not taught them. If you go to Charlotte, they'll tell you Pirates Bay. But we have not taught the persons in school about our tourist sites and attractions, and the same thing happening in the art sector. So the curriculum really has to be impacted, first and foremost, probably at the primary school level, as well as the primary school level, and you build from there. So that'll be your beginning. In terms of promoter space, I know Kern spoke about it, and that is a very good point for us to note. Some of the spaces, because of the pricing, they are restrictive, and it only allows, I would say, the super promoters access. I would give an example, if I may. I think Pigeon Point.
Tell me,
Pigeon Point price.
what's Pigeon Point price at the moment?
Well, he said it. Right? That pricing, it may be good then, but when you add fencing, it means, right, for you to have an event, before you even put artists and marketing, you have spent $150,000 just at the bottom end. Then after that, you have to add your security, your artists, your marketing. So it means it's only, again, a super type. So from the time you see anybody doing a fete there, you know you're running close to almost $500,000 to do a fete in the Pigeon Point, which means your smaller promoters are left to build events in a car park somewhere in the bush. So it is restrictive, and that is one of the better venues. Cano Bay is also a good venue that has a really good price as well, but you know, persons also like the Pigeon Point. So that's something that we have to look at. In terms of research, even during my studies, I remember calling and harassing Kimmy, where is this, where is that? And she would say, we are not that. We don't know about that. We need to deal with the research element. For example, what is our carnival history? Is there somewhere we could go to the Festivals Commission or the library and say, this for sure is the Tobago carnival history? Right? It's more likely you have to go by the Queen of Culture and sit down by she house and hear Miss Annette describe to you. And the problem with that is persons may give different descriptions. So that is something that we really need to bring those matriarchs, patriarchs together, bring persons like probably Dr. Tull, Miss Anna Fitzpatrick from UTT, and bring them together to do that research and be able to say, this is our history, digitize it, cartoonize it in all different forms, and put it out so the students from primary school level could respond to it.
No, Fali, just want to interject. So I love Dr. Tull. I love you, Dr. Tull. But before we bring the outsiders to help us do this, I believe that we have people here to do that research. That people are very capable of doing that. I mean, I agree with Kevin. We could bring them, but we have people here that could do that. Set type of.
Matriarchs and patriarchs.
Yeah, I mean, besides you're going to the knowledge bearers for your information, we have our own anthropologists here, we have our own researchers here, and young history students who will be willing to go around to the communities, find out the information, see where the similarities lie, do the documentation. Yeah. We have people like Sir Primer, who had his students doing film in school. So those students, he could take those students to do the visual and documentation part of it. So I'm saying, while Kevin is correct in bringing people in to help us, we have our own. We can start there.
Let me say this quickly, and I think we gloss over it, and we probably need to spend a little time on it, and I hope that's where we're going, Miss Alfred. One of our single largest problem when it comes to the creative sector in Tobago is documentation of our history and heritage. Yeah. I don't know, we are afraid to write, we are afraid to document these things. We are heavily reliant on oral history. Yeah. And of course, if I tell Kimmy a secret, by the time it gets around to Cowan, it's a different story. Yeah. And people adding their own myths and mythologies in the whole mix of the story. When really and truly, we have to get serious about documenting our history and heritage. I'm always impressed by the postings of Dominic Calipasad, who has a thing running where he's posting some historical content
Yeah.
and having all this wonderful footage, I'm guessing from old TTT days and file photos and so on. On the island, we need to invest in an archive, a proper archive. We have departments and buildings overrun with papers, and now we have to look at digitizing those records so we have them. If I go up to Assembly Legislature now, they have some brown folders, very, very brown, to tell you how old they are, that just there in the basement taking up dust, just stacked in a corner, not being saved anywhere. You're talking about our artifacts to also be protected. You're talking antiquities as well. Major point. We have people thieving cannons by night and copper pots by night and turning them into water fountain. You could go to one person yard and see 10, 15 line off across the whole yard. No one single yard will ever have so many copper pots there. Just look at the history, right? You will have in some cases up to about 8 where I have the mill, varying in size from very large to very small. Because they will boil the sugar from very large and keep transferring it downwards. The point is, we have not made an effort, I don't think a concerted effort enough to document and protect heritage and history and data.
I want to add, I know that it is said we have a lot of information outside in England and in America, which is ours, so we need to digitize those.
And Finland, by the
A
way.
lot, yes.
There's a
A
whole
lot
section
of
in Finland
about
with
Tobago, and
information.
Tobago doesn't have it.
Yeah.
But there's another part of the conversation, because we had to think about with people, the culture with people. I just think back in the day, a foreigner will come and they just want to take a nice picture. And I recall a situation where people was like, you had to pay me $5 for that. They don't even see the value of someone taking a picture that shows the island, the beauty of the island, because they see, and I say this to say, and I have been around the cultural circle. I've been around the old ones, the young ones, the not so young ones.
Yeah.
We have a problem with sharing. We also have a problem with individuals sharing.
Digitalized
No,
world.
not that digitizing.
No, I'm saying, I'm drawing the irony.
Yeah.
In a digitalized world, we still have a problem with sharing.
We have a problem with sharing. So therefore, when you made the point about it just being oral tradition, because someone prefer to just simply tell Kevon and tell it, they don't want to get into the heart and belly everything because they feel that they're giving away something, and then no, because this has been. So I would say this has been my experience.
It has been mine as
It has
well.
been my experience. Jared, has this been your experience as well?
It has been.
It has been our
As in,
experience.
you have to go with someone who know.
Correct.
So an example might be, I mean, now I don't get flack for it because everybody know me, but an example might be a photojournalist just traipsing around Tobago and she sees Tobagonians in action, in living action.
Right.
I say, okay, I'm going to take some wonderful photos. Here is a fisherman in Speyside still blowing a conch shell, right? To say fish ashore. Let me take a photo. Somebody will cost the woman some bad word. We're taking out my son, so picture for. But we don't understand the value of going viral. There's a young lady from one of those African countries that photo bombed some celebrity. But she did it unwittingly. She just had a tray on her head with neatly stacked loaves of bread. And she ended up photo bombing this celebrity. And the photo went viral, not because of the celebrity. People saying, but who is that a model? People thought that the young girl was a model in the photo. It turned out she was just in the right place at the wrong time.
The wrong time.
And from that, she ended up getting multi-million-dollar contracts. She was a single mother. She was getting multi-million-dollar contracts just to model clothes, fashion, just from one photo. And the idea of sharing is that people should not think that if somebody take out a photo of me dancing, or a photo of me pulling in the seine, or a photo of me baking bread or washing my clothes or hanging up my clothes on the line, that does not mean that something is being taken away from me. There is value in going viral. In today's world, there is value in that. And so that kind of sharing I think is absolutely necessary.
On the same aspect of sharing, I just wanted to go back on what Kevin was saying there a while ago, right? I don't want to believe that after all these years, we have not documented anything at all. I believe there are some persons in Tobago space who would have done some sort of research, and what we need to do is ask those people to probably share the information they have or find a way to get it. Because I would hate to think that after all these years we really have nothing to show. So let's try to acquire the information that is out there and really see how best we can use that. Because when I hear research, I'm thinking research again, how long that process is going. I am tired of that. I want us to start activating those researchers that were completed years ago. We had policies done. We had so many different things done. Time to activate. And I'm glad that you said you made a motion quite recently in the assembly that was rejected. You are now in the position to ensure that such a motion is activated. So I would want to challenge you, sir, as the Chief Secretary, most humbly, to ensure that the necessary tapestry is laid before us and we get the necessary things that we required. You are no longer in any position for anybody to tell you. You can actually make it happen. So I want to challenge you, sir, and your team to ensure that we do that to make it happen.
I want to add that he puts in place the people or that unit that would research and record and archive, because the knowledge bearers are getting fewer and fewer. I could check them how they went and how they went. Everybody Elvis called I knew, but they're all gone. So then that is something that is urgently needed.
Because Chief, just to add to what Mrs. Alfred said, because we have always had documenting. Yeah. The Department of Culture, under Ms. Victoria Mitchell, there are archives of information that is there. But the same way as you would have mentioned about the legislature, these are old files that with moisture and everything else has decayed over time. The information division, who has been there about 100 years, and when they were dealing with the oh gosh.
Go ahead.
The cassettes, those VHS cassettes. Yeah. You know, because out of lack of resources, the same tape have 3 different set of taping on the same tape. So the issue was never that we have always recognized the importance of documenting. We've always recognized the importance of archiving. But I think now, more than ever, it has to be streamlined. There has to be a system that really, that their principal job is to do that. Kimmy Potts spoke about it, the anthropology and these things, because we can't randomly have just this because education doing something and tourism doing something, but they hire no, it has to be a dedicated sort of approach, because you know you're going to do something along those lines. It has to be dedicated, because when it is done randomly, the day information will have a tape this week, they want to tape over on that.
Well, I spoke to the other information division since coming here, and I said, look, we have to, number one, organize our files that's there.
Well, they do it again.
Right?
I say they're still doing that.
No. They're using digital recording now, and the truth is, the equipment is not the best, but they have hundreds, thousands of VHS tapes there still, which is not the best format to keep in this time. And those could be digitized and be shrunk to smaller formats and be held much more safely. So that's something that we have to do, because they have donkey years of activities around the island recorded and just there somewhere. If I tell you all the story of how that video of me telling Mr. London I come for your job, how that came about and how that got leaked, that's a whole that's an off-camera conversation. but the point is, that could have only happened because somebody somewhere was recording and archiving stuff, and it just strike of luck. Not really luck, but blessings of God that became available at the time it became available, because I was trying for years to get it. But we have to do some work in that area.
I wanted to add some things. And we're trying to make it make sense. And information division had the tapes according to Elvis, the tapes. And I think that perhaps even a call for people who may have archived information to come forward, and they might get a little something, because I have to mention Father Phil Isaac, who has been recording things for years. We actually have some recordings on Imelda Cookshank and all these people that we had done in the past, JD Elder as well, from Father Phil. So maybe that's an idea as well. Call them forward and let's get the archiving done. And of course, with the archiving now, we have to talk about servers. We have to talk about proper storage, talk about online storage, and then access, yes. Because for us who create content, Ration Pay and I, who have to research to create things, it is very difficult to find. Kevin said it. I was doing some research recently. You cannot find a lot of information on the Tobago's carnival. You can't find it. And we need to start to get these things going. And just one more thing quickly. No, Mr. Leacock has a lot, so he's also a source.
I wish he was here tonight.
That's it too. So and then one more thing. One more thing, and I have to plug film. We're talking about documentaries and we're talking about creative ways of capturing our cultural history. And once it's done in a cinematic way, there is actual monetary value in that. We can make those things make sense.
Elvis, sorry.
But no, he the chief secretary.
Yeah, come on, jump in.
You have to remember, you have
in
to
terms
pay
of
for
making
that.
sense, when you
You have
ask
to
for
pay for
festival data, you'll be surprised to know that we have not been
Documented.
taking festival data. So no, there's no information on festival size, festival spend.
evaluation.
But let me get a little joke about that. When I was in another place, I used to make a lot of noise in this space about the Tobago Jazz Festival. And I used to be saying, but where is the data? Why can't you prove to me that this thing makes sense? What's your real intake in terms of foreign arrivals, international arrivals? How much is the community making from it? And it's not because I was saying we should not have jazz, you know. But what I wanted to do was to force the THA to actually start doing that sort of analysis, because that will then inform what our spend should be. It will inform whether or not the best place to keep jazz is Speyside or elsewhere. It will inform, because there might just be a case where jazz is the best thing to ever happen in the East in terms of actual economic activity. But if we're not doing the analysis of the thing, then we really don't have a justification for the spend,
And that's the
and it's
two
not
places
making
we fall
sense. So we have to do the analysis all the time, which will then inform the kinds of investments we ought to make, which might say, okay, you know, the jazz is not a bad idea, but perhaps we should take off 2 million from the spend here, because we could see that the Dragon Boat Festival in Pigeon Point, if it had $2 million more, would have made a kind of profit that we wouldn't realize in jazz. But we can't do that kind of comparative analysis if it is we're not actually analyzing all of our activities.
Before you come back to
I
it,
just
right?
want to add to that, because that comes to business, and when you talk to business, that's my thing.
I'll go wait.
One of the prerequisites that we must have going forward, and this, you know, I'm just saying this: if you're not accustomed spending your own money, if you're not accustomed spending your own money, as an entrepreneur, as a promoter, as an investor, you will get in those things. I mean, Kern and I, you know, we all have done major projects in some form or fashion. And I have spent a lot of THA money to do things on behalf of the THA. But I've had to also do things on my own. And I know that if I have $50,000, that $50,000 I have to spend the best way possible, because I want a return on investment of another 25 or 35. So it's about, you have to bring in the business side of the thing, and once you bring in, if you're true about what you're about, all of those things you're talking about would have been natural course of action. Because if it's that, you know, you're spending money in Speyside, you're spending money in Pigeon Point, where you're going to get the best return on investment. So you know whether or not this is just, because somebody, the return on investment doesn't necessarily have to be that dollar value.
No.
It also,
And it doesn't have to be gate receipts
correct.
either.
It doesn't have to be that dollar value. It could be that the return that brings value to the community, because there's so many things that happen within a community or within an area as a result of an event happening there. So those things have to be measured. But I think what has happened over time is that we have gotten so comfortable in just simply spending, because we don't know, you don't have to really find the money. The money is there. But I think that's an important part of the whole thing. So when we decided to do Bitter Cassava, when I went to the secretary and I said to her, this is what we want to do. So Elvis, well, you ought to show me where you're making the money. And we could safely say that we generate over $100,000 per show from Bitter Cassava, when there are other entities within Tobago will do 3 and 4 shows who can't even generate what we did in one show.
Facts.
But because of the model in which we follow, because we had to now we had to have a brand, we had to have a voice, and we have to now channel the information to the market that we're catering to be able to bring them out to fill Shortpack and fill Magdalena and fill Trinidad. So the model is there. It's just that this needs to be expanded now in all the other areas and activities and events and festivals that we do on the island.
I wanted to, as we talk about data and research and all of these things, let me take you back to 2015, 2016, when we were still in the event building up the brand stage of GlowFest. And that one year we decided, you know what, guys, I want to get a sense of who is coming to the event. We brought in volunteers and we literally took names. Where you're coming from, what is your social media handle? And we created a database. And you know what we discovered? We discovered that 80% of the people that are attending our event in Tobago are from Trinidad. And that then drove us to say, you know what? Let us take this event to Trinidad to advertise Tobago and see where we could go with this. We took it to O2 Park, same artists, same cast from Tobago, Tobago artists, international artists, Trinidad artists, O2 Park. And we had 8,800 people in attendance. We came back the next year to do same show, same data, was barely able to cross 1,500. So there is data that is available once you can now correlate the data and use it. Because that data also said to us that Tobago is one of the biggest secrets in the world. And it's hidden under a bushel. And forgive me for all of those who work in this place. Let me take that.
No, go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it.
Is that safe
Oh,
space?
we are hidden under this air and sea bridge concept that limits us.
Yeah.
There is no way that we can become what we want to be with all of the information that we have. We will continually preaching to ourselves and we'll be sharing data amongst ourselves. We have to become more accessible, more marketable, and it takes a ridiculous amount of investment to get there.
Yeah.
We need to be more accessible to Trinidad and the rest of the world. Because if I'm seeing my event can be so much more successful in Trinidad in 1 year, and then now there is this cap that I can't seem to pass in Tobago because there is only so much people can take to get to Tobago. We have a bigger problem. And no matter how much questions and arrangements and acts you get from these people that control the airlines and the sea bridge, there is still that cap that they are only willing to give you because they don't see it as beneficial. Because I'm a small promoter.
Yeah.
Well,
I'm a small shell.
you hit at the heart of the budget I am preparing, which is when I look at the economic space that is Tobago, we are service driven. No service driven economy can operate without people, without human beings. Because who else are you serving? Animals can't spend money. Birds can't fly in here and pay for services. It must be human beings. And given the population size of Tobago, to have a successful service-based economy, we just have to be accessible. And, when some years ago we did this swim protest, it wasn't because we think we could swim to Trinidad. It was to highlight the ridiculousness of not having an island that is accessible and for the Tobago economy to go anywhere. Caribbean Airlines cannot be just doing a dozen flights per day. For the economy here to go anywhere, it can't be 2 empty flights from United Kingdom coming here once per week, and 1 from Barbados once per week, and 1 from New York once per week. That cannot. The island just have to be a place. It just should be easy to get here. And as far as I'm concerned, I've stopped caring so much about the how and just caring about the what that is needed. And if it is, we have to take a decision as a country that we have to invite other airlines outside of Caribbean Airlines to service the route. then so be it. If you have to take a decision as a country that we cannot necessarily pay for the subsidy, and hear me out, I'm not advocating carrying the flight to $300 one way. I'm not saying that at all, as some economists have said. But what I'm saying is, if it is, we have to ask people to pay a little more, and that will result in significantly more flights coming to the island. That's a trade-off I am willing to make, because the island have to be accessible. We can't have 3 boats and the boats only going between Port of Spain and Scarborough. That's another issue. The boats we have to start considering, why can't the boat go up to Grenada and go across the Barbados? Most of the year, the 3 boats may not be necessary. For Easter, Port Authority put on 7,000 additional seats for sailing. And at the time I met with them a week before Easter, 6,000 of those 7,000 had already gone. That's additional seats that were put on. Caribbean Airlines is booked out. I'm trying to get some important conversations in Tobago with some players from Trinidad. In July, I'm trying to get a meeting on July 4th. And every one of them saying they can't get, I'm trying to figure out what the hell happening on July 4th that they can't get to come to Tobago. A regular day in the week, a regular Monday morning to come to Tobago, and you can't have flights a month away. No major activity. 12 flights is ridiculous.
Short of that is building a bridge to
You
Trinidad.
also take into consideration, I remember sitting in an interview for Caribbean Airlines. And said, tell me where you know, and I started talking about the Tobago route. And he stopped me. That route is not profitable.
Wow.
Tell me about so and so.
No,
So-
but you think it can't, listen.
So no, I'm saying that
No,
it means that now.
and that's a wrong business model for Caribbean Airlines.
But that is how
you
they look
can't
at
take a
look at
bus
this.
to Tobago. You could take a bus from Port of Spain all the way down to South and spend how much money on a bus from Port of Spain to South now? I don't know. It's $8 from town to Charlottesville on the bus, right? So it could be about the same to go south, right? Maybe about $10. You can't take a bus to Tobago.
Yeah.
Every single developed society in the world spends money, government money, taxpayers' money on providing a public transportation service. And we do not have trains here in New York. That will be the train service underground. In the UK, that's the system with the tube underground and the bus service above, and you get your Oyster card and you make a move. In Trinidad and Tobago, part of that public transportation service network must include air and sea transportation between the both islands. Or else, we better cut a line in the sea and just separate the thing and done.
Yeah.
Is that we have in one country or we not have in one country? We need to make up our minds on what we want. We want one country, therefore, we have to spend some money on improving public transportation between the both islands.
Yeah.
That cannot be for profit. That has to be for moving people. And let me show you how Trinidad will make the profit. When Tobago was getting 80-something thousand international visitors per year, and today that point was made to me again, 80-something thousand per year when we were getting those figures. Banks in Tobago used to be packing up US dollars to send down to Trinidad to flood the treasury down there, because Tobago has the potential to fix the country's forex shortages.
Yes,
The
that
drop
is-
off from oil and gas can be replenished with a strong tourism product.
Yeah.
What tourism we building here when nobody could get to the island? Why even build a new terminal if it is we don't want flights to come in the place? We can't attract the flights into the place. We just have to do better. When it comes to that.
4th of July.
I'm happy you mentioned something. So if we really tap back now to the creative sector, because we could do all the training, which we have done. We could do all the development work. We could build all the community centers and all these other resources. But the Tobago population is only so much you can do. How many shows can you do in Shore Park? If we do 4 shows in Shore Park over a 2-month period, it's still too much, because it's the same audience it's speaking to. So in order for the creative sector to really start to become sustainable, the sustainability doesn't just come from just the kind of work and training and development and policies that we need to do here. Because we have demonstrated, just among the people sitting here, in their own right, we have demonstrated that, one, we know about the marketing.
Yeah.
We know about the raw product, which is the culture. We know about the training. We know what is needed, but it's really the coming together of all of those elements to make this work. Because we have seen there's an appetite. There's a craving for what we have to offer, not just within Tobago and Trinidad. Because what we have to offer, I am confident that we could take up the region and international. I mean, the bitter cassava experience and Jared and Rayshon and the entire TPAC team, they blew my mind, you know, because when I look at the team and saw what they were able to produce and saw how, if we were called to do another show in Trinidad next week, we had a huge argument before whether to charge $100, $120, or $150 for Trinidad show, and I regret we didn't charge $300, because today, if we call our next show in Trinidad, it will sell. So therefore, the people want what we have.
As a matter of fact, Elvis, it was told to us we should have charged $300 for Queen's Hall.
Correct.
Because that's what they're accustomed to, and that was the level of work they saw coming from Tobago.
So, Chief, with some of these,
call our next rounds of bitter cassava in Tobago, a lot of people from Trinidad would come to Tobago, because at first, when we said that we were going to do a second showing, a lot of people like Vaughan, Bigford and them were on Facebook saying they're booking their tickets to come over. They were willing to come.
And that is the point, because you see, things like that, and we're not just harping over bitter cassava. There are many other beautiful work of art that came out from the island over time and will continue to. But we are seeing where if it's done right, and we have all the kind of resources moving in synergy, what it can do for the island, not just within Tobago, but outside of Tobago. And those are the things that I would want to advocate for in this budget. So you see that air bridge and sea bridge issue, that's one. Two, we really need to look at smaller palatable spaces. Everything can happen in Shore Park.
Yeah.
We had to look for smaller palatable spaces. This is a huge space.
Can I ask you creatives who run this space here to start thinking about other uses for this space beside traditional theatre in the space?
Well, wouldn't
I know that will shake up the mental of some who think that we must just keep only dainty events here. And
Chief, I'll give you a long list of
Chief, forget that.
We have
use this space.
Forget that. You see.
This building, let me tell you, this building that we're sitting in is Tobago's single largest development spend in the 41 years of the THA. This is a $1 billion building. So as far as I'm concerned,
underutilized.
Work out the money.
Chief,
if
you listen, I walk this building, the most step count you get, just come and work here. Okay, step count.
Yeah.
You see this gentleman, Mr. Kawan? The kind of headspace, this kind of ideas. I was on this committee. I was here when it was just steel. I know this from its core. Myself, Glenda, John, I know. I know what this was designed to do. I know where it went to and how far we strayed from it. We have performed and been in many other facilities all over the world. Shore Park in itself, each room in Shore Park should be generating a certain volume of money on a monthly and annual basis.
Daily.
So the whole rule, which I hope they just kick out the door, because you have to think about the ethos of the people. The same way, and I've made this point over and over again. People go into Movie Town every day and buy popcorn, soda, and everything else. And the Movie Town, they have been there for years. So if you really want,
and they are carpet
there. So therefore, you can't want people to come into Shore Park to have a good time, and they can't shake a leg. Or they can't even sit and have a certain kind of an experience because the space is not, because of the policy. So therefore, we have to do away from those policies.
Agreed.
And we have to monetize the space, the space can be monetized.
Can you all remember, before I jump in, can you remember what Shore Park Cultural Complex was?
Yes. I remember that. Ask me.
Yes. My classmates used to be leaving to come down to Tobago performing Tapa. Come down to Tapa to dance ballet and all kind of story down here. Netball, basketball, football. You have stage shows, concerts, soca spree. when we
Interdepartment.
good Adventist mother think are doing the Lord's work, I running away to
my
soca spree because my classmates down here jumping up.
I remember seeing you.
Every single thing happened in this space. And then we try to develop a space where we restrict it, overly restricted, and nothing happens. And we spend $1 billion on it. My thing is the $1 billion don't spend already.
Policy
So
change.
work out the money, right?
Chief.
Do what needs to happen and make the space usable. Get some futsal playing on the surface inside there. So
Chief,
let people come and
talking
shake a leg
language.
here. Let people have dinners here. I mean, I wish this space was closer to space side. The day when I was getting married in all that rain, I might have just move everything on the floor space inside there, no rain. You know what I'm saying? Utilize the space, open it up, let it become the hub of activity. Let dancers who want to come into the space. I've already given a commitment to you, Mr. Cohen, that there's some things that need to build out in here.
Yes.
We don't have a studio in here yet. Where the studio? Where are the facilities
studio
to
there is?
film inside of
The
this
green
space?
room and the LED space.
The
that
green
could
room
make
and
the
the
money
LED
back. Yeah.
space and all of those things,
Conference
lighting,
center,
conference
all of
center,
these things, yeah.
fixing the sound. Thankfully, the air condition is fixed. So please,
Praise
if you're
God.
looking at this, you don't have to work with fans the next time you rent here. The AC is fixed
Working
now
Working.
and it's working good, right? I'm feeling cool in the hoodie. So we have to build out the spaces and allow for a myriad of activities in this space.
Agreed.
Let young people come through here. You have your residents here dancing and harnessing the skill every day. What's happening with the young people after they finish school? Where this is located, we have 1, 2, 3 secondary schools in a triangle around it. And then of course you could add Harmons and others that are very close by to the space. You have several primary schools in the space. Plenty young people on a daily basis have to come to Scarborough for schooling or for some kind of activity.
And Chief, I want to add.
Why here isn't a
plug in-
space
plug
that
in
allow for that?
somebody. There's
Well-
so much artwork in this
Well,
space.
let me-
And
let me-
nice,
let
talk
me-
about that.
let me
Talk
about
about
the
that.
visual
jump in. That's
artwork?
where I would jump
Yeah,
in.
let's
Stick
talk
up in
about
I
that.
happy for the visual artwork.
Wait,
Call the
Stick up in
tell you
right
why.
here.
We in discussion.
Yes.
Nice,
So,
nice, nice.
Shore Park is the execution end of all that we discussed. The possibilities are endless is the new tagline here.
Yeah.
We are literally from June 20th to the 24th going to experiment with sport entertainment here. Put on the sports floor. We have futsal, basketball, netball, volleyball, CrossFit, all of that. Experimenting right here. And Chief, I'm going to bring you back here to see these things happen in this space, in the very space that we're sitting in. We have the conference center that we must build out because that is now a major attraction to large organizations on the international front.
Nice.
Microsoft takes their entire executive to remote locations all over the world. I mean, just to have conference and enjoy.
Yeah.
Shore Park has that. There are rooms that can have multiple training. There are rooms that are studios, film. There are rooms for that. Shore Park should be the largest visual arts exhibition on the island. This is what this is. It is the largest green space that can be, sustainably driven, that can have outdoor, indoor events. This is a place that emulates all that we're planning to do, from jazz to carnival to conferences to weddings. This is where it's at. What it needs
Yeah.
is the financial backing that drives it. As big as the investment is, what it needs right now is to be fed. It needs to be fed with the equipment, the people, the resources that takes it to the next level. Shore Park is the largest venue in the region, and we can't speak about it.
Right, so I just jumped in on what he said, right? I think while I agree with that the investment is necessary, the space on its own can also generate its own type of investment.
That's
Yes.
right.
All right, so I think we need to really capitalize on that, utilize the space, make money from it, and that money could propel us to do several other things.
That's right.
All right?
What I'm considering is whether or not Shore Park should be a company, a state company, but a company separate and outside of the day-to-day running of a division.
I strongly endorse that.
Charged with the responsibility
Strongly endorse
charged with the responsibility
Yeah.
to earn its own the same way.
Might be an interesting
Stolly
angle.
Park, Quarry is a company. I mean, they don't make as much as they should be making, and some fixes going to happen. They will talk about that. Pigeon Point, Heritage Park, another one.
Tatco.
Tatco. This might just be a space that need to be independent of a division. Get your subvention, but be charged with the responsibility to get your investments, to attract people into this space, spend time doing that. We have to also build out some of the staffing in this space. It can't be one man trying to run all of this.
Amen
So
to
we have
that.
to organize the staffing in this space. We have to get a lot of the creatives back here. From here, I am hopeful that some of the things Annie talk about, the going out to the schools and the training our young people across the island. He had to become the center of a satellite kind of operation when it comes to visual arts, performing arts, film, and all of those things. We have to invest some money. We have to spend some money on things like a public studio here, the green room, LED room. We have to have those things in this space in order to facilitate the kind of growth in this sector that we need. So it requires some more investment
Yeah.
to make it. I mean, if I look at the pure economics of the thing, with $1 billion, we should have gotten the building and all the bill out.
Yeah.
But you crying over spilled milk now. That the milk, the cow, the heifer don't kick down the
Right.
pail of milk,
The pail don't
right?
kick down.
So we now have to look at how do we build up from where we are, because we can't just leave it as it is. We had to fix the roof above our head. Part of it needs some fixing. The retaining walls at the back of the building, because while the structure itself has not moved, we see the lands at the back of the property moving, and we have to fix that process. I saw a vision or put your had for doing an open space outside for open air concerts and so on. Absolutely needed in the space. If we have a space built out with a permanent outdoor stage and so on for outdoor activities, then you have another venue that you could rent.
Yeah.
Certainly it will be cheaper than Pigeon Point, and the cost for that space, because that's a much larger open space. So we have to have alternatives. The problem is not necessarily having a Pigeon Point that charges 40,000. The problem is not having enough venues along a continuum that you could get something for 40,000, you could get something for 15,000. So you have to have venues along a continuum that allow people options for what they need. So there are possibilities here that are unexplored at the moment that we have to find a way to explore.
Well, I would like- I want us to go and swim.
But just to add to what you're saying,
Yes. I'm coming to you
it's
right
very
after.
important, because we live in a society where, unless you show people what are the possibilities, they really can't get it.
They wouldn't buy
They,
it.
they, they, they,
That's
they
the
won't see.
issue with
Some
the
people see the
creative sector,
trees,
yeah.
and some people can see the forest. So we have to find creative ways of showing people what is possible. Because you
Yeah.
see, the place has been a no, you can't. This can happen. No, it's just no. Has been the norm of the space. It turned a lot of people away from the space. So and we have started to do it, and Mr. Kawan is showing people the possibilities. Just think about the entire THA from the public service level, and doing the kind of training and up-training that needs to happen over time. Having a space like this to be done. Think about potential corporate bodies. We should really have corporate bodies, same as they had the cricket in Port of Spain there. These box,
yeah.
right?
The box
We should have
offices are the-
corporate
yeah,
bodies
the
literally
rentals.
just sponsoring different rooms in the building. You must be coming here and getting a Scotiabank room, a Unitrust room, because it is paid for, and they're selling points for that, because those things you could sell. We know how to do these things. So the possibilities are endless, but we have to now try to show people, because we have to start to warm people back up to what this space can do,
Yes.
because they have been off of it such a long time.
Yes.
Well, allow us to change gears a bit, because I think Miss Alfred wants to make
Yes,
an
I want
intervention
us to change gears
here. Yes,
because
let's change gears.
makes
We're going up back, you know.
CENTS. We're
Correct.
talking about CNTS. Some years ago, maybe many, if I want to say that, there are universities, 2 universities came to Tobago during Heritage time to do studies and to get their credits. That was money. Well, at that time it wasn't so big. I was one. By my little place I made some change. Wax might have, people made change, you know, who knows the thing. We want something like that to make sense again.
So
We
if
want
you're talking now exporting the service.
Exporting
and
our
exporting
services.
the service does not mean having to go out and do
No,
the
no,
service.
no, not again.
We could
But
bring,
all these fancy
we
things
could
that
bring the
have-
foreign entities there for it, and it's about diversifying
That's right.
the audience we're talking to. So you're right, we're having this wonderful heritage festival where the anthropology students
Plus,
from around
we'll
the world-
also have other things because now we're saying it wouldn't be heritage alone.
Have
It
blue
would be
food.
other things.
Other
So
things.
it would not be. Maybe we can start with the July, August, and then you could see yourself moving into presenting other things so overseas people to be a part of.
we need to have THTI twinning with
like that.
other institutions
Ah.
globally, so they could offer some of their programs locally
Yeah.
here. Some of the research, the study programs here in the space. Imagine if THTI offering a program from a FIU or from a Berkeley College of the Arts,
Yes.
Yeah.
and they're offering the program in Tobago. People will leave the UWI and come here.
They will come.
Because
They will
as far as they're concerned, they could have a high quality program here. I also want to see us invest in acclaimed residents for the space. What do I mean by that? When I think of a resident, I'm not just thinking of someone who is proficient at the field. I'm thinking of the people who are infamous in those fields. So for example, imagine I could bring a Carlos Santana into this space to spend a month to teach guitaring and riffs and so on. How much people will you think will want to pay to come in here to sit at the feet of a Carlos Santana
Yeah, an artist
or
in
of
residence.
Yeah.
some world-renowned singer or maybe some world-renowned actor? Imagine if Denzel Washington comes here for just 2 weeks or 1 week. For 1 week.
I could bring them.
Your
That's
door
right,
will be,
that's right.
people will be
Come on now.
people will be kicking down your door to come to and it's education.
Yes.
But they will kick down your door to come in here to say, well, I want to not just be starstruck, but I want to learn from somebody who is Oscar award winning
Well, Chief,
or
if I could
who
add
win a
something
Tony
here.
award and that kind of thing.
If I could add something here, and of course plug our music director Justin Peterkin, and
went to
Justin and I, who went to Berkeley, he's also Berkeley
Extremely
trained.
talented, by the way.
Very, very.
You could
Oh,
tell
no,
he went
John
to
that
Berkeley.
way.
And he
John went that way.
and I built
Went
a
it to
program.
John
Oh, you went there too?
Yeah, John went to Berkeley.
Nice. So he and I built a program, and that program kind of does exactly what you're speaking about, which is bringing through his network experienced producers and artists and creating a session that we invite musicians, we invite producers to come and sit in on a master class. And they get the training because it's important for the artists who are here and who are building themselves as a brand, the Sharon Phillips and all these others who are building themselves, to get that next level training, that level up, and actually get someone who zones into literally what they're doing. And I have to say this publicly because it's just such a shame that we weren't ready with the orchestra, that Justin's network is so wide and so vast. Have you ever heard of Tiny Desk?
Yes.
Tiny Desk, which is a major deal. He has a friend who asked him, he said, I know that you went down to Trinidad and Tobago to create a little orchestra. I have a space on Tiny Desk for you. Are you all ready? No. Tobago could have been on Tiny Desk today had we been ready. So I really hope that we don't miss the train now in terms of really doing the necessary, creating that music residency, and at the very least bringing these professionals in to do these master classes and level up our
And
people
to
on the
add
island
to
as well.
Jared,
Remember?
I remember when the Les Twins, if you don't know who they are French dancers who dance with Beyonce.
Beyonce, correct.
They brought them to Trinidad, and not only Trinidad and Tobago dancers went to the workshop, but there were people from the region that came. And the Les Twins, it was not cheap to go to this workshop.
Right.
But it was a sold out event. So I could see that happening in this space. And I mean, where they kept the workshop was not glamorous.
Right.
Then ready for a show back.
All
So
right, coming back to
I
what-
could
Sorry, go ahead.
imagine having a situation like that where we bring in like a some resident or somebody from like the Alvin Ailey or Broadway, or somebody like, okay, for example, we have a friend called Dwayne Hines. He's from Barbados, but he performs with the Lion King. And he was trained, he started his training right there in UB St. Augustine.
We also have Janique too.
Right?
Yeah.
Excuse me, you just spoke about T-Pac's model right there, because that is exactly what T-Pac
Well,
has-
right,
has-
this
has
is what we
inspired.
want.
I'm coming back to Jared there. So then Justin could only get these people if we start these people in our primary schools and bring them up.
Definitely.
If we start doing our music and other things in the primary school.
Definitely.
I ain't finished. I want to talk about twinning. Some years ago, I was invited from Plymouth, Jerry McFarlane and myself, from Plymouth to join Plymouths all over the world in England. They wanted to twin with us. And there's where the tourism comes in, because when we are twinning with England and Ontario, Canada, we have a base in those places. When they are coming here, there comes the airline and the tourism business we were talking about. They will bring people and we will get to develop or teach them what we have and carry. So we need to do some twinning with some other people out there so that we can, develop ourselves, develop the tourism thing that seems to be struggling and not letting people go out by our place because we can't find any tourists to come in Mr. Farley.
There is something I'd like to say.
I just
That
want
we
you
haven't
finish,
touched on.
finish your exercise, your copybook.
No, I ain't
You see,
done.
your copybook.
No, I ain't finished yet. I came with my notes. Medicinal herbs and foods.
Right.
Now, what do you think name COVID? COVID has taught us about a number of our own plants here that were so helpful. Yet, we do nothing about the medicinal. I remember some people from India talking about the big word, and I didn't know the word until they used it for me. Some big, I can't remember,
Let me stand there, take off your glasses.
Anyway, whatever, they were talking about coming here to use, to well understand our plants. And we will just boil anything together. They wanted to investigate and know 2 ounces of this or grams of all, let's call it now. 2 of this, 3 of that, and this would make medication.
Right.
We sit down and buy, our people buy, them and someone says buy aloe vera thing for the face and so, and we have aloe vera growing right there. I mean, we have a lot of these things here. Can't we do something about all these herbs so that we can develop a sort of industry here? We have Mrs. Philomene Murray in Ibo Gully. When you go there, and I must take you there, Dave, all sorts of plants. She knows the use of everyone. And I can tell
And
you,
we need to document that, because you see, there are some
Yeah,
things
as a
that
market.
we learned through the oral tradition. Some things we do by accident, others by providence. That we just have to document. We have to get some young people in the space to learn these things, because part of the culture is not
Same
just the
recording and
dance
archiving.
and the song and the acting, but it includes the tradition of bush medicine. And I
Yes.
talk about monetizing bush medicine.
yeah.
What is it? Why haven't we yet studied what is it in what compound is there in the trumpet bush
that's
that has
good.
get rid of me cold?
All right.
Or what why do I need to make sure they say the bush the bush have to turn up. If it turn down, leave it alone. If
Yes,
it turn
you
up, you
can
use
turn
it.
it right.
I don't know. There might actually be something scientific behind what makes the leaf turn upwards versus downwards when it fall, that we just have not paid attention to. We may be walking around and having cures and remedies for significant ailments that we're spending millions on,
Millions of dollars.
and we may just have curative measures right here in and around us. So
Which we can monetize.
which we can monetize.
That's
And so
what I want us to
the
do.
culture that we have to talk about have to go beyond what happens on the stage and stage performances,
Yeah.
but include some of the things that we do as way of tradition that we need to find a way to make money out of
Look how many of us are using turmeric, as our people
it. Turmeric,
say.
yeah.
Turmeric. Turmeric is in almost every medication you read about in the on Facebook and so on. It is there. I can tell you, I use it every day. And Lord help me and get the thing yet. So I use it all the time.
Yeah.
What are we doing
You know
about
what-
those?
So I was going to say one, well, July 4th, that weekend you have Dynasty Paint and Island Crashers. So of course,
Oh, no wonder
you're
nobody
not going
can
to
flight.
You're not going to get any tickets. But I'll put the plug for the carnival here.
Yeah, but I supposed to get a ticket to come back in on Sunday the 3rd of July.
Good luck.
You
I
will
would
get you.
say
You will
to
get you.
the reference carnival, you know, it's coming in October, and of course we will need significant investment and help from the THA. Of course, one of the major things bands will be concerned about is and Kern outlined it, air bridge, sea bridge. The THA has to be, we need to be aggressive in that aspect, and the transport system needs to be working. Also, we have to look at, I know everybody may not be a carnival person, but carnival in 2018, just under 2,000 persons, Tobago recorded a 18 million return on investment. We have a room stock here of almost 38.
Yeah, that's around 3,500, 3,800 thereabouts.
So if that is a carnival that we don't really advertise and we could attract that amount of persons, it means in October we could surpass that very easily. But of course you will need the THA.
But remember, the audience you're getting in February is not necessarily
Necessarily
for the traditional carnival activity.
Correct.
During February, people see Tobago as a place for the
To get away.
alternative activity,
Right.
to get away from
So,
which is in
good.
itself something we ought to market.
Yes.
I struggle every single year to help people find spaces that could accommodate large groups, which is another thing. Like where can large groups stay with bunk beds? That's
Yeah.
reasonable. So we also have to diversify
Yeah.
our
So whether
product
you come-
offering in terms of
whether you're
accommodation.
coming for the carnival or not, the important thing is that you're coming, because even if you come for camp, it's still going to spend
Of course.
food, car, whatever. The economic benefit is still there. What is make sure the THA is that when they see the budget, don't say
Why does this song as though you're trying to prep me for
I
a
am
budget I should be
prepping-
afraid
I am
of?
prepping you for a good budget and that you will support in terms of marketing, especially to ensure that we get the people here and we get a return on investments.
Well,
Okay.
let me just
No,
say, once the
Persons
once the
need to-
budget fits into
need to
into
plug in.
what my technocrats and myself we sat down and last week and we
Put a fill.
put our minds to giving for carnival in October.
Yeah.
Once it fits in that mold, it's something we can work with.
That's him,
And the thing is,
It will fit.
we will have to pay for the carnival out of this fiscal year, because the carnival comes in October, which is at the start of the new fiscal year. And I wouldn't want to risk waiting on subventions for the first quarter of the fiscal year in
Yeah.
order to action the things that are needed for carnival. Additionally, you will need to do a lot of groundwork up front, I would imagine. Your marketing would have to do several months in advance. You want some promotional activities. You want to pin down, I guess, artists and service providers and all of those things in
Ambassadors.
advance. So that will require some spend in advance.
But Chief, but I must add, I'm sorry, Kimmy,
Go
but
ahead.
just one quick statement. But the great thing is, and Kevin and I were speaking about this off air, there is definitely a demand.
Yeah.
Everyone is poised and ready. The Trinidadians were asking about the rooms 2 months ago.
Yeah.
There's definitely a demand, and we could really get that return on investment once we put the money in the right places.
And persons have to put themselves in the position. Are you going to,
To be
an
ready to
investor?
receive,
Are
yes.
you going to be participating, or you're just going and work? The
One
thing
of-
is
one
we
of
are
the-
hosting the carnival, and
Yes.
we
One
have
of
to
the, one of the
take ownership
examples
of
of,
it.
that, like on a minor, I wouldn't even call it on a minor level at this point, was when Mrs. Ramsey Moore would have brought the medium band finals to Tobago in 20.
Oh, 17?
No,
No,
19.
2019.
No, the pushback from some of the heads in Tobago who say, what well bring that there for? Do we even have enough maxis to carry people around? Do we have enough hotels here? Like
I
this-
call those things good problems.
We go
I like
fit.
good
So
problems.
because
And
you
that
get
was
a
it, and
Let
that
me
was
bust
it.
the head about where people go sleep.
No,
Let people come and sleep in the car, pitch tent.
you know what
Person
the
has to rent-
irony
person
was?
has to rent out a
Problem.
bedroom
The
in your
irony
house.
was that the THA, while they pretended, and I could say this with a bold assurance and a very clear conscience, that the THA was very reluctant to invest into that project. When it was successful, it was the most praises from said THA representatives I have ever seen. And they could say they could drag me on Facebook, but okay, and because I worked very closely with that project, so I knew what was happening. So I hope this post the October Carnival, for the National Carnival in February, March, that's something that we also pay attention to. That medium band finals in Tobago, a lot of Trinidadians do come for it.
Well, I could say that I could say this tonight, and I mentioned it to Miss Alicia already. I am ready and willing to support national activities coming to the Tobago space.
Of course.
We cannot argue as Tobagonians everything they don't at Trinidad.
And then when you come here,
Right?
now
We always have to go down. The same way, by the way, those of us some country, just be arguing everything they are tongue. We only have to come
My
and tongue.
cousins in Charlottesville.
And as soon as some people come country, whiskey a blow on them too hard, they're ready for run back at tongue.
Yeah.
Right? Oh gosh, she late, me have to go home. Country people always come in tongue in the bars, they come country the next problem. But that aside, the same we can't reasonably argue that everything is in the Trinidad space. We always have to go down and be unwilling on the flip side to be host
Yeah.
to Trinidad. We have to put on, we grown up clothes, big man clothes, behave like adults about this thing, and be willing to take some risk. Business is risky business.
Yeah.
You will make some earnings and you will lose some earnings. Even as calculated as you could be, it requires taking some risk. If
With the carnival budget.
No, and we have been talking about T-Park all night, right? When they came to me and said, look, we want to go to Trinidad, of course it's a risk. We could have gone down there and nobody can come out.
Yeah.
We could have gone down there and dance out C3 Mall and wherever else, all they went and do promotion, and nobody can come and buy out the things and them in the road show with the agro processors and so on who were there. So of course it is a risk. It is a risk. But nothing ventured, nothing gained. We have to sit down, measure 2, 3, 4 times, and then cut with cloth straight and prepare to take the necessary investments that will drive the Tobago economy forward.
Yeah.
Right. What I would like to say is that I'm hoping that from this discourse that we're going to set some serious timelines as to achieve some of our goal. I've listened carefully, and I heard the Mr. Kawan saying should, and I've noticed that you are saying have to. So clearly you have envisioned exactly what you want to happen. What do you want to see happening here in Shore Park, here in Tobago with regards to the orange economy? So we need to ensure that we lay the foundation, put a team in place immediately to ensure that we have some specific objectives, and we want to at least ascertain these objectives as soon as possible, because we've had many discussions previously. We've had discussions for a long time, right? We now need to ensure that out of this discourse, we actually have some sort of implementation taking place. So I'm really hoping that from this discourse, we would have that. Additionally, I also wanted to say the model that TPAC used is a great model. We also need to see that the world is our playing ground, all right? So if it means that we have to carry some of the performances up the Caribbean, because remember the orange economy is about monetizing your intellectual property.
Yes.
And we are creating so many things here. We need to understand that, hey, the world is our playing ground, right? We could run up the Caribbean with these performances and make millions. So we really need to see the importance of that, have the education system in place, but I think immediately we need to really put a team in place, set some timelines, and activate, and let's have some things happen.
I want to add to him, right? He said that the orange economy is about monetizing our
Intellectual properties.
right.
Yeah.
So on the topic of intellectual property,
Nice.
Tobago dance specifically, I'm speaking to, it is unique, but it's also similar to up the islands.
Not all.
No, but
Not all.
No, but some.
Some, yeah.
Especially the
belly.
French-based dances.
Belays.
But there are some very strong things that we can identify that makes us or sets us apart from the island. One of the things that I was very passionate about at one period of my life was codifying our steps, our dance steps. It's not a conversation that we have all the time, but I've had it with a couple of my peers. But I never followed through with actually doing it because I was demotivated. Until I had a conversation with Mr. Titus and realized that Mr. Titus actually had started codifying. No, he didn't call it codifying. He just had his stuff written and documented. But actually what he was doing is codifying. Now, if we start codifying our steps, then it could become a genre that is recognized internationally. So instead of, going to UWI and learning Martha Graham is not a bad thing. But at the same time, going to UWI and learning the Tobago jig.
Tobago reel and
Yeah,
jig.
and
The
learning
Tobago
how to
reel
codify
and jig.
and learning the steps that are codified, and we know how to do them properly is a thing.
And if I was taught properly in school, I would have known to jump on the jackass back properly.
Yes.
Right?
I mean, one of the things that I noticed in the Best Village competition is that a lot of our dances here have become very quick, and even like our Congo belly have become very high from what I was taught. And so, I'm not saying that there won't be changes in the steps, but at the same time, if we are able to identify the original step, then and it's been codified, then whatever version of it that we decide to add our source to is fine, but we must have something that's codified that we as Tobagonians can identify.
I don't want
Right.
us
And
to
it's
jump
coming
off.
that fast.
Yeah.
I don't want us to jump off the conversation about intellectual property just yet. Earlier this year when I spoke to Miss Rona Jack, who
My
the
neighbor.
Dazurula,
Yeah.
the Dazurula, and she was lamenting the fact that many Tobagonians with wonderful products have not gone to the extent of
Registering.
protecting and trademarking their products. And that is so important because she have trademarked her product. She has had fashion companies around the world asking to replicate her ruler and put their brand on it. So the same way you may have 500 different rulers in a stationery store and each of them have a different brand name on it, they want to replicate her
Have
ruler and put
hers.
a brand.
Yeah.
And guess what? Anytime she's allowing them to do so, they have to pay her royalties for doing so.
Yeah.
And and in the Tobago
not get
space, we
royalties
create
from
too
a
many
royalties
wonderful
from Amazon
concepts
and all of them.
that we
I
leave
start to
up
get-
to chance. That we leave up to chance, and the next thing we look and we see somebody else take up with thing and go on with it. But you can't complain.
Yeah.
Because if it is you don't take the time out to treat with the matter of intellectual property rights, and what we may have to do as a THA, as I'm talking is coming to me, we may have to strongly consider ensuring we have the necessary offices set up here that we could begin to penetrate this space on the matter of intellectual property rights.
I want to
Bring
add
it home
something
to
as well.
Tobagonians and teach them what to do. What do you need to have? What sort of paperwork you need to file? Do you need a lawyer? Should we have a lawyer on hand to assist individuals to do this kind of work? But you have to.
Yeah.
Because
All of this is part of preserving and ensuring that we have a really successful orange economy, because if you do not codify the dance, anybody else could take it. It's not authentic. We don't have any identity. So identity in terms of acquiring this thing and saying it is authentically Tobagonian owned, or it is authentically Tobagonian, then we need to ensure that we codify. So this is ours.
Yeah.
We own, right? We need to ensure that we do that. So it's very, very important that I like the point Ms. Potts, codifying, creating that identity for whatever we have.
I want
That's
to bring
that's
something
a big
in and talk
Yeah.
about the artists now, because we're talking IP, and we don't necessarily see that an artist creating that is also their IP, even when they are hired by the THA, for example, because we usually all hired by the THA. Essentially, we all are going into a partnership with the THA.
Yes.
If I do a film for you,
Your intellectual property.
it is my intellectual
Correct.
property. But outside of us informing our
That's
that's
what
I knew that, but I smile because we have so many people in the space that do things for the THA that the THA perhaps have not paid to do those stuff. Or the THA say, come sing a song for me now.
Yeah.
Come dance a dance for me now. Come do a
Intellectual
speech
property.
band for me now. And then it shows a million times on
And
Tobago
we have no
Channel 5,
royalties to get.
No royalties.
and now Tobago updates. And you as the artist
We
have
don't even
not
have a
been finished
buyout
on the-
contract that perhaps makes that legal.
Yeah.
If you understand what I'm saying. So from both ends now, we need to start educating the artists on the ground. Know your rights. Because if you're talking about building economy, building space,
Yeah.
we have to know it. And thank you for that. We need to know our rights and we need to protect each other. And we need to kind of enter into business fairly. And it's okay for us to partner. I mean, the THA paying us to do something, but we can also claim ownership, but we must also assist in perhaps the marketing and promotion of this thing too. So that might come in very good for Carnival as
Well,
well.
let me add to what you're saying, Jared. What we really need to do also is build a model that carries that business. Because if we're talking about rebroadcast rights, what is that? How do we engage on that? When we talk about metadata, for artists, what is the metadata? How do I really and truly register my ISRC number? All of these things are pie in the sky when an artist might say, I have a good song to sing or I have a dance. You know, what are these things? People need to be taught this. They need to be educated about these things because that is really where the business is from on the international market. For example, Beyonce. Beyonce has 1 billion followers. So when she wants to drop a song, she doesn't need to go to the radio station.
No.
She drops it on her YouTube and goes platinum
That's
in seconds.
Yeah, she
And-
not waiting on them.
Exactly.
And I think she giving some hints recently that seem
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
suggest that she coming with
She
something
removed,
new.
Is
She
B7?
yeah, she
Yeah.
removed she B7, she clean up she profile and everybody start to get okay.
Something
Like the
is
beehive
coming.
start to buzz.
And,
Yeah.
this is all a part of the business. They understand the mechanism that makes the money.
Yeah.
And many a times it's not on the performance, it's on all of these copyright laws that pay them back, their rebroadcast, their use of
then
all
on
of
the-
their royalty base.
And then on the flip side, I see many young people in the national space, especially from Trinidad space, becoming viral on
Yes.
on a thing called TikTok
Yeah.
without any of the product being copyrighted, having those intellectual property
Or even
things
branded.
managed. And then you start hearing Vava, Vroom Vroom in
Yes.
multiple languages. You see it popping up all over the
That is
place.
that song.
Yeah.
Popping up all over the place.
And head shoulders.
You
and
see it
toes.
Oh,
in
yeah.
in
Oh,
film,
yeah, I
in-
know.
you see
I
it
know.
in films and all
Yes,
sort of
that
stuff.
is,
Yeah.
And the young artists who came up with something that the world loves
That's it.
earns nothing from it because all you did was just have fun on TikTok a day and shared
and as-
your best idea and somebody ran with it and you never
Got
took
a-
the time
Yep.
to walk it back and to put measures in place to copyright the thing as yours.
So, Chief, I'm happy.
And-
I'm happy you made that point in terms of
But
because
Elvis,
one of the things that we've
before
done.
you go, I just wanted to support one you were just saying there in terms of from the music perspective, because even at this current stage, large music industry corporations are seeking out TikTokers and people who are going viral and are paying them in the millions.
Yeah.
But
Like the-
Buying out their music.
like the influencers who got
That's
to
correct,
try
the
to sell
influencers.
grease.
But Chief, but coming out of COVID, because the world that we live in pre-COVID and post-COVID, the amount of new things came out post-COVID. There are people who started over, rebranded their entire company. I rebranded my entire company during COVID. Moved the company from physical cash transaction to total digital. And people came up with a lot of different product services and different sort of experiences. But the thing is, the people who survive, and this is what one of the we have to move to, we function in the place of hobby for quite some time.
Oh,
We
yes.
do most of the time because it's a hobby. But what we deal with as a hobby is serious dollars and cents. You see, Chief, there are people who come and pay, I don't want to call it my friend, Ashamaz and Neves and Melina and all these big, designers here on the island. And videographers. I mean, I talked to my friend Jared recently. I have colleagues the videography game in Tobago is no longer just camera up and camera down. You know.
Facts.
In
It's,
fact,
it is a big money making
can
industry.
I say to you, with and to those watching on in the space by extension, that I have found
Right.
in recent times that the best photographers and videographers in the entire country,
It's in Tobago.
Right
they
here.
come from Tobago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Every last one of them.
Melvin
endorsed.
Isaac.
From
I called them
Melvin
out.
Isaac on one
Philbert.
end to
Philbert.
Baggy.
Desron. Mark
Leandro as well
Baggy.
too.
Shaquille. There's
Yes.
so many
Shaquille.
of them. So many of them. Too many to just name out immediately here. But the truth is, we have some of the best when it comes to photography and videography in the
is an
entire
expert one?
country. But
Yeah.
to me, there is one layer that we have to our advantage.
Well,
The
then-
problem
well, then call
is
Wayne
that
John- call
locals
Wayne John
don't want
names.
to
No,
pay
no,
the
of course,
price.
Wayne John has
Wayne
been
John,
in
of
business
course.
fighting here.
People are paying, and that is what I want us to kind of move the conversation to.
Theon was
Many
talking
of
about
many of the things that we
Yeah.
take for granted, whether it be through
Wasn't
or
getting
culinary, whether it be through or cultural, whether it be through our traditions. If you just have a keen enough eye and you package these things, there are people who are paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to come right here. You didn't have to meet them. They see you on social media.
Correct.
And they pay you US, pound, Canadian, or EC dollars to come to Tobago to experience these things. So I think one of the things I would like us to see is that because we really need to start to really show some support in terms of, I know this word could be considered a bad word, grant funding. No grant funding. What does give the carnival and mass people? What is
No, same grant funding.
Same grant funding.
Yeah, grant funding.
That could be seen as a bad word, but it can be a good word as well because there are people who
Once
have a lot
used
of different
correctly.
ideas, but they don't fall in the brushstroke. Because when you go to BDU or go to finance or one of these organizations, because they don't fall in the brushstroke,
Yeah.
they are not they don't have eligibility to getting
The
these
form is
funding.
prejudice.
So we really
Yes,
need
it
to now
is.
have a
You
different.
raise something
Yeah, the artists
see
don't really
before.
benefit
Yeah,
from
yeah,
the
they
views
don't.
as well.
Prejudice.
Because I don't know that I've seen a BDU grant or venture capital
Of course.
funding for a startup that's in the creative.
That's the point.
We don't have
I don't know
any.
if- I don't know if
I've
I've
been turned down. I've been turned down.
Yeah,
I
we
don't
don't
know
have
if
any.
We asked,
Oh, you've been turned down?
I've been
You would
turned
have
down before.
asked.
I've approached and I've been turned down.
we asked for that actually from the consultation to provide it to mass practitioners or probably the promoters to actually access a grant from finance on the video, but specifically created for that because the problem is if they go as there is now,
They don't fall in the category.
Yeah.
they would fail
There's
them.
nothing to
Because
fall.
because
Because,
come on,
they are- the
because
requirements rule.
They
trying
just
to
don't know.
rule out.
They also don't look at it as being
Profitable.
profitable.
There's no
Yeah.
So we asked them
physical.
to
We
create
don't,
Yeah.
the creative
up
arts
to
are sustainable to
50,000
the
or whatever
average
the case
person,
may
you
be.
know.
So that specifically for that purpose, and you have to put somebody in the sector to understand. You can't
Yeah.
use the regular people
Correct.
because they'll be like,
Because
You wanna
if
start a
it's-
mass
you're
one?
saying that
Like
we
you
want to
said.
change the carnival game, they will talk carnival. If we say we want to change the carnival game, and we've had some old guys and they have done yeoman service, and we respect and we appreciate what they have done.
Absolutely.
But if you're now trying to bring in new blood into the business, I know just the circles that I run in, there are people who have great ideas. People just take, Chief, we just go up in the bush and create events in the bush and people pay $15,000 and $2,000 per person to come and experience those things. So the thing is,
correct.
if it's that there's funding available for Kimmy Potts and others who are dreaming different things because they know what the young people, I don't know what the young people do because I'm not in that age anymore, but they know what they like. But if they don't have the kind of, because if they don't have the startup, because we're talking to Tobago Carnival, and I had this conversation with the secretary recently. So I don't fully endorse the notion of no grant funding. This is my view. Because I think in a time when people came out of 2.5, 3 years of nothingness, and then we get into Carnival, there must be some seed funding. I'm not saying to give a handout. Kern come with a good idea and pitch to me. Tomley come with a good idea and pitch to me because out of those ideas we may emerge new ideas and new kind of experiences to the entire Carnival. And if the THA is supporting the Carnival, then the THA should be really putting things, allowing things to come on the table that brings newness. Because I could call off the top of my head some of the basic things that could happen for the Carnival. But is that what we really want for the Carnival? Because
Yeah.
the Carnival model has not evolved from what we are accustomed to It's not just mass, it's about experience. The carnival has evolved across the world to experiences. And we now have to now create the avenues where the people who could think big and think broad to come up with these experiences, but they need the kind of funding. If it's that a young person come up with something because they want to do something in Roxborough, and they just have a great idea, how do they take that great idea and have it turned into something positive or something useful? They need the support. So I think this is something that the administration should kind of really look at in terms of how they nurture those emerging ideas, because these are the ideas. Why I feel Island Crushers turn into what it turn into. Island Crushers turn what it turn into today because
Island Crushers, they are now having conversations.
Of course.
Sending information to me about wanting to bring a cruise ship to the
Of
island.
course.
To be able to accommodate the people while they're here.
People, how you feel that started?
And all of that.
It's a small idea that
that
blossom
blossom
out.
over time.
When you say the grant funding, it's just separate the two. You're talking the grant funding for.
No. I think the
about
point.
for
I think the point he's making. I think the point he's making is two points he's making. On one hand, we have creatives coming out of a long period of drought.
Correct.
And one of the industry's hardest hit by the lockdown.
Because the creative sector.
Especially those who
We
don't
took it the
work
hardest.
anywhere else except
Yeah.
they play a little pan here, sing
Correct.
there. That's how they earn their income.
Yeah.
With entertainment being shut down for 2 years plus, churches shutting down for 2 years plus. Even those that go to churches on a Sunday morning and play keyboard and
Yeah,
make some
yeah,
offering money
yeah,
could not have that opportunity
Yeah.
for 2 years straight. Coming out of that, those people will need some kind of grant funding in order to get going again with business. Whether it is for October or for February, they will need some assistance.
Correct.
The point I am making is how they need to now take that which we could give them as grants
And
and
make it into
create
something.
a
Yes.
business out
Yes.
of it.
Correct.
It can't be that you're
Let's do
looking
that.
to make a profit off of grant. Because if you're looking to make
But
a
that
profit
is what
off of
happens
grant,
now.
it means that your costumes will be substandard.
Right.
It means your product that you're offering will be substandard.
But
Your
you remember
competition.
Because you're just waiting for the
You
grant
are
to come in
and
and
that is-
you're hoping
You
to
know
spend
that
bare
the
minimum
grant-
and
It's an old bad
premium
habit.
If they
stuff.
get a grant for
That
10,000
cannot be
But that is
done.
what
That's why we have
what
switched.
that's what we have
explain-
going on
We are not
now.
in no
explain to
hotel
persons
at
that the
all.
model that is October is really the business. We're moving to the business
Yeah.
of Carnival.
Right.
And your sale, your profit would largely come from the sale of your costumes. And you know,
But
so that's why we
Kevin,
make-
but I want to add to this because I've been following this conversation closely. The THA, there's a heavy, like in any startup,
Capital.
there's a
Yeah,
heavy
yes.
spend you must do on the first one.
correct.
We score big on this carnival the first year, sell off. Let's take case in point. Marshall Montano and Tribe. They decide, you know what? We're going out of Trinidad and Tobago, no more Marshall Monday, we're dropping it straight in Cancun, Mexico. And that model that they took and carried to Cancun, Mexico,
That's it.
it's sold out so big they could carry it in the Sahara Desert now. This is going to score. The same model, we know the model. If the Tobago Carnival, and in order for the Tobago Carnival to be successful, one of the success of a carnival is people. So we have to get people. So we can't, as much as we're trying to not do too much of handout, which I can understand. We can't do too much of handout. We want to push innovation, push creativity and all these different things. But if the people are so boggled down because of the way the pockets could reach and they don't come out on the streets, that sends a very bad message, not just locally, nationally, regionally, internationally. Because we just want one squad. And the next thing is, and I'm happy we're talking about this. And Chief, I said it to the secretary recently. And probably needs something from a larger policy level. And when the committee probably starts putting more information out, I guess it will come out there. Tobago has always come across in some form of fashion as being very abrasive to and welcoming to people.
Yeah.
And
Xenophobia.
so let's take case in point. We'll call it as it is. When they first talked about the carnival, the whole country went in an uproar because it was the best thing in sliced bread, right?
What?
But then from the time you hear where's the guy from Tribe talk, and you start to get a heavy pushback. But even when you got that pushback, there was enough, from my perspective, enough policy level discussion or kind of saying, hey, that is not what Tobago is about. Because sometimes you have just a small few who just love making the noise and making
yes.
look like making
few
the
always-
island.
the few
The
always
island. The
love that.
island is
I
a
remember
particular thing.
seeing that post and I almost commented on it. But I just did a regular post to say collaboration, is what will help us. But without saying too much because,
No,
we
well,
can't say-
let me say this. Let me say this officially from the THA perspective.
Very good.
And let me be very blunt in saying it. Couple things. Number one, the October Carnival is not meant to be a repetition of February Carnival. So we're not looking to repeat what happens in February and October.
Right.
Number two, we're looking for a carnival that reflects the Tobago identity, whatever that is. So it must feel and sound and look like the best of Tobago. Number three, this is about making sense. CNTS.
Money.
And you can't make money, you can't make sense unless there are people patronizing
Correct.
the event.
Yes.
That means that we are welcoming to people from all over to come and participate. The fourth thing is, I want to see collaboration. I want to see Tobago artists and artisans taking the opportunity to collaborate with people
National
from other
entities.
spaces. It may be from Trinidad, it may be from outside
Okay.
of Trinidad, and collaborating for work in Tobago. In fact, some in the space have already indicated that that's what they want to do. The Gemma Bedlows and so on. Miss Bedlow has been making the noise to get some training for the mask makers and so on. And I promise you,
That's good.
and I'm insisting on that,
Time enough.
that we're going to
Provide those.
ensure they have the resources to do that training
Nice.
element. Training it so that the costumes can be placed on a website. They know how to do e-commerce, that they know how to do e-marketing, that they know how to use influencers, that they're looking at new design techniques, they're looking at materials, they're looking at the business side of the thing. So that October really and truly becomes for Tobago the first and finale of Carnival. Finale in that it's the last Carnival in
Of
the
the-
Americas
For the year.
for the calendar year.
Yeah.
The first to start the season.
And it's the first to start the national season. And it's an enviable position that we should not lose an opportunity to make money on.
Yeah.
This has to be about making money. Too many things in the Tobago space, we do not pay attention to making money. October is not about nostalgia.
Monetizing.
October is not about just a feel-good exercise.
Economics.
If you want to feel good, stay home in your house and feel good. This has to be about, as a society, getting an event that is so big that it sell out the weekend it announced. That there are no tickets available, and we definitely have to get additional flights in here. That people have their places all booked out long in advance without even knowing what is happening where. But I also want that when people come, the product offering is so exceptional that all the other years sell themselves. And it's Tobago having an opportunity, even in the entire conversation about autonomy, to be able to say to the rest of the world, we can do some things on our own and do it well. Because I have lived in a country that has said to me over and over again, and I'm sure that come before my time. I'm sure Annette experienced that too. I'm sure Annette's siblings experienced that too. We all grew up in a space that often said to us, if it comes from Tobago, it's somehow not as good as
correct.
It
high
depends on
quality
what, it
as
depends
if
on
it
what,
come
it depends on
from
what.
elsewhere.
Which
is
You know the
opposite.
feelings that you get from people elsewhere, that somehow we inferior and we
Yep.
second. This is an opportunity to show up and show off, as we have done in many other areas and
Areas.
sections of our lives. And so yes, while it's not, I don't necessarily want it to be that the whole carnival is run by outsiders necessarily. We cannot, I will say this clearly, we cannot be opposed to outsiders participating
Can't
in
work
the
silos.
in the
Correct.
event.
Fully
We
endorsed,
cannot
yeah.
do
But
it.
we don't want
in
to feel like
silos.
we're being squeezed by them either.
And that's why we have to talk collaboration,
Yeah.
right?
Collaboration
Collaboration.
And that's-
opposed to
and that's why
people
we-
just walking
and
in
that's
here
why
and
we have to-
with their big brands and
No, but the thing is,
They
but
will-
cutting
the
way
thing
off.
is, you also cannot potentially stop that either.
We can't.
No, but
but at
because
the
you
end of
live in
the
a country
day,
of Trinidad and
right?
Tobago.
And
Yeah.
while I understand that, but if our own people are going to create the scenario, then how you gonna let we feel?
No.
So
what
we have
has
to
happen
make
is,
sure and protect our own first.
What I want from the Tobago creatives is now we have to be confident.
Of course.
Yeah.
Now I
Of
want
course.
you to create a product that is so high standard that it does not matter who want to walk in here from wherever.
Correct.
And
100%.
whatever.
Talks,
Your
Chavez.
thing will work
And this is
itself.
the
Money
promoters.
still talks.
the Tobago
So when the
promoters-
big brands and them
No,
coming
but-
from Trinidad with
no,
their big
forget the
couple
Tobago-
and me and my little
No,
DXL
forget
and my
the
little
Tobago
Dynasty with
promoters-
small
Forget-
money
forget
carry run
the-
up
are very
against them
important in that
problems.
aspect.
Forget big brands that coming from
Have faith,
wherever.
Gimme.
Never.
No, hold
You
on.
have to have
No,
faith
no.
and then you have to understand the niche.
Hold on.
faith,
Understand
Gimme.
your
Hold on,
niche
hold on.
market. You may have a niche.
Forget
I
the
know
big
what
brands
I'm
that
speaking
coming from
about.
wherever. The one thing you as a Tobago creative have on your side is something called the THE.
True.
That is one thing you have.
Inside.
Oh, God, come on
That's
now.
one thing you have.
I hope so.
and so
Support.
we are putting you in a space that you are able to compete and not just compete but compete and win. That's what we want.
Just come with a solid
And
idea.
compete and win.
I
Let
really
me
hope
tell
so.
you, you look at the carnivals all across the Americas. Every single one of them, Trinidadians have their nose in it.
Yeah.
Meddling in the people business all over, except for Guyana. And
can't
perhaps
do
that's
it
why
from
we don't
there.
hear anything about Guyana carnival really. We know what is going down there, right?
More junk.
But they're everywhere. But guess what? You think you don't have Jamaican promoters and Jamaican
Of course.
mass designers and
Who are
carnival
collaborating
band
with all
leaders
these entities.
who are not leading in that space? You
I
know
am
why?
not saying don't
Because
come in. I
there's-
want it to be very clear. I'm not saying don't come. And I'm not saying no collaboration. I am here for the collaboration in
we
a
need
matter of fact.
collaboration.
I am saying do not create a space that is not a level playing field for the Tobagonians.
that
But Kimmy,
is
but Kimmy,
why-
but Kimmy,
Hold on,
but-
let me
but-
finish.
no,
Let
but-
me
but that-
finish.
but that's
interject
that's
there.
that's
Let
a
me
very
interject there.
Let me finish. For the Tobagonians to have their foot in the door solid, because as it
But
stands
that is
right now,
why-
it's looking
That
soft.
is why.
But could I
That is
interject?
why, Miss Potts,
Chief?
I am saying to you, the THA and whatever budget we decide upon is a THA that have to support in name Tobago House of Assembly for a reason. THA money not spending for nobody elsewhere and on nobody event from elsewhere.
I hope so.
The THA support is for the Tobago creative at this time, so
Chief,
that
after the interview.
you could compete and win. That's
Well,
what I
alright,
want.
well, alright,
And
well,
you
alright.
have to show up and show off.
No,
What
I can
don't
show up and
want-
show out. I can
what I
guarantee
don't
that 'cause my
want-
events always
Let
sold
me
out.
let me
What
hear
I
the
don't
carnival
want,
perspective.
what I
Let me hear the
don't
carnival
want
perspective.
is that we having a Tobago carnival.
No representation.
We spending monies on it, and then when I look,
your standard isn't there.
when I look
It's a shame.
with my non-carnival expert self, I am seeing substandard output. I don't want that. I want
I feel
quality. I want class.
It's a good thing
I-
my work that speak for
I
itself.
want the collaboration, and I'm guaranteeing you that support. And I sat and
My
I
quality
spoke.
always up there.
I sat and I spoke with the carnival committee. Recently, I sat in one of their meetings and I spoke with them. And one thing that is clear is that we are going to try to have the best seasonal input that we could possibly have, the best first start we could possibly have. It's actually going to be one of the first events in the new fiscal year. Because the fiscal year starts in October. It's going to be at the start of the peak season for tourism. October, winter season coming. It's rainy season, yes. We're still somewhat in the hurricane season. But it's only once, I think, in history rain wash away mass. So we're going to see what will happen in
Then it's upside what it rain.
and it exactly is
What's
upside-
the
wash
mass
away-
in May?
mass in May,
Chief,
right?
after
So,
that, Kimmy.
so the thing is, we will, and I am clear as to the mandate. The mandate has to be supporting the Tobago creatives at this time.
All right.
I want us to also be clear in projecting that we are open to collaboration.
We are.
And
We
we are
are.
open to no, but sometimes when we speak about it,
Doesn't suggest
it doesn't suggest that we're open to collaboration.
Yeah,
I
that's
have
true.
always been here for the collapse.
No, it may not be you, but
Okay.
there are
Yeah.
folks in the space who
Yeah.
have spoken in such a way that it sounds as if we don't want nobody come here.
No,
Right? That cannot be the model for a successful event, especially service-centered economy,
Yeah.
where we only have 60,000 people,
Yeah.
right? Where we can't seem to be making enough children
And half of
and
them
retaining
then
enough of our
church.
children.
Scream out.
So we have to be welcoming to getting people into this space. I want to see the collaboration, but I want to see young, bright, smart, talented Tobagonians at the forefront. I want Tobagonians to position themselves well. As I said, I am no carnival person. So you ain't gonna see me on the street in no costume winding down. But one thing I'm resolute about is about the economy of Tobago and what we need to do to make this economy work. And part of the recipe for making this economy work is ensuring that we have events and activities that generate sufficient economic activity across this space with minimal spend. I await what the proposed budget will be. Naturally, I will keep it into what we can afford because we have to learn to work with what we could afford, right? In fact,
to your cloth.
cut according to your cloth. Hang your hat where your hand could reach.
Yeah.
Right? And I'm not taking a...
Hang your hat and not hat.
With hat. Well, hang your hat where your hand could reach.
But
Thanks to
Chief-
the correction. So I'm not taking a loan for Carnival. But I'm saying, but I understand that this will require some significant investment. It's the first one. And in order for it to work well, the first one will require some significant investment.
But Chief, I just want to make a point here, and I know this Kimmy is fair, right? Just by sheer scale, there's some of these promotion companies, they have at a drop of a dime, at a drop of a DM, boom, 5,000 showing up, boom,
Whole
easy.
marketing team behind them, yeah.
It will take
And
3 or
capital.
4 promotion companies in Tobago to come together to even get half of that because of the share scale. But we don't have to compete at a level. You don't have to compete at a
But
level.
suppose we want to
No,
compete
but
at
we
that
can't.
level.
And that is the thing.
We
It's
can't
about-
do
we
that
can't
now.
do that now.
Until you
But
build
the thing
yourself
is-
to that point, you have to
because
I
of
have
the
to
share
cannot.
scale.
I have to disagree
So
with you.
Kimmy-
all.
No, but Kimmy,
No, but
I
you don't
was
have to be on the
willing,
scale.
me and my team
Hold on.
was willing to
Kimmy.
compete at that level.
They're
So that is
competing. I
resources.
think I hear no
we
competition.
we were there. We were willing to put out to find resources to do up certain event, what that we called a mega event. But now we may have to backpedal.
No, but no.
Because we're competing
what
against
do you
big
consider
money
as a mega-
spenders.
What do you consider?
Can I
What
interject,
numbers?
please?
What
Kimmy.
numbers you consider as
no,
mega?
Something as big as a Masha
Kimmy.
Monday.
No, but hold on.
But the
hold on,
sheer
Kimmy,
scale
hold on,
of
Kimmy.
people.
You are conflicting in what you're saying in that.
No, I am not.
No, listen to what he's
because,
saying. Listen to what he's saying.
On one hand, you're expressing a sense of fear.
No, she's speaking to something.
Hold on.
I'm
Yeah,
speaking to something specific.
Specific.
I just
That's what I'm
don't
saying.
want to
Could I
say what
share
it
the-
is.
could I-
Okay.
Oh,
But I'm
speak.
speaking to something specific.
No, but the thing is, you can't speak to something specific in general terms.
Why not? Why not?
It's a conversation.
So could
Well,
I
alright,
answer in
well, alright.
general
I
terms?
stood corrected.
So my point is, we can't on one hand express some measure of fear of competition, and on the other hand say we could compete and we know how to compete and we want to compete.
My fear is not that we can't compete.
What's
you
the
know,
fear?
my fear is that we are not given the same level.
Who will not give it
But,
here?
but who has to give the level? Who has to
Yeah.
give the level?
Let me just change this topic now because
So
we
could
can't
I-
this conversation.
could I-
But let me read
Could I
this.
ask-
One seem
could
to
I
Hold on,
answer in general?
let me read this comment from Beverly Ramsey Moore. She says, Tobago pan bands go down to Trinidad and give a good account of themselves. What is the fear? Go brave. We need each other as a people.
Correct.
In other words, she's saying we have in carnival arts demonstrated
Yes.
that we already have some of the best. Our bands, especially in small and medium bands, we wrap rings around
I'm a large
around our Trinidad competitors. I could tell you because I have been there on a Saturday, not Saturday, Sunday, a Sunday for semi-finals in Queens Park, Savannah, walking with my youngsters from Speyside, going up to go and play and so on. And I could tell you, Tobago bands make a good account account for themselves.
That's right.
A very good account for
Calypso
themselves.
dance too.
If Little Tobago could produce the likes of a Rose and a Lord Nelson and
Crusoe.
Crusoe and
Shadow and
so many others who have made a mark, and if Little Tobago could produce the Robinsons and
Johnny
even
King.
a Rowley now, I don't see what we cannot produce. I am giving, as the head of the executive of the THA, I am giving you an undertaking that the THA's support is for Tobago enterprise, like whatever young upstarts that you want to have in the space. That's where your support comes from. It is our job as a THA to create a level playing field for you.
Yeah.
Countries do that all the time. Is why some countries have protectionist mechanisms in place when it comes to trade to facilitate the growth of some industries, and then they open up for everybody else. The point I'm making overall is that you have backative from a Tobago House of Assembly
Fear not.
that is intent on ensuring that you can compete. That is what I want the Carnival Committee to understand. So, fear not. Fear not. And I hope you'll give me the specifics afterwards.
Sure.
So I'll hear what the specifics,
No problem.
are. But you will be able to rise. Whether I'm gonna say you, I'm talking about any of you in the space who really and truly want to have a thing in it. And while you're rising elsewhere, I might be sleeping at 10 somewhere in camp.
That's all right. We can
Right?
represent for
I'm
you.
trying to see how much church people can get to come up on the boat and sleep out in schools and wherever and spend their money in guest houses and pitch tents and buy from the village shops. Because I know all and all the carnival will happen in the major centers, Roxborough and Scarborough and Crown Point. But what camping does, in that period, it allows for outlying regions that will not get any action, especially economic activity, to get some economic activity. Wherever you see those camps taking place, them parlors and closing, and them shopkeepers not going carnival, and they're opening to sell all that they could sell out in that period. The guest houses make money. The boat tour operators, I have had camps that want to go on the reef, that want tour guides to go hiking and maxis to rent and so on. So the opportunities are endless, and I want us to see the opportunities in a very broad way.
Correct.
Now, we have been at this for a while, and we have gone longer than I anticipated we would go. Your copybook finished, Miss Annette?
Yeah, I'm waiting for my closing statement.
The closing statement. So let's start with the closing statements. I'll start from you, Mr. Cowan, and I'll come around and I'll give Miss Potts the final closing statement, Miss Potts.
No problem.
So, in two quick nutshells, from a Shore Park perspective, we look forward to the support in building out the facility as the execution end of the creative arts sector in many different ways, from the stage side to the back end to the technology that supports it. From that overarching perspective, we see Shore Park being a major contributor from this point onwards, for years to come within the creative arts sector. From the promoter's perspective, we need the support of the THA, not just once, but ongoing, in major definitions, from the quote-unquote grant funding, right back to the technical support, further into the opening of the gateways, bringing the people in from the A and the C bridge, and ensuring that there is that market that we can serve. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
I would say to Tobago, October is coming. Possibilities are there. Keep calm.
I'm very calm.
The THA will do its best and invest. The committee will do its best. We are looking at everything and putting together something that, after meeting with the stakeholders, so relax
I'm very
a little
relaxed.
bit. But Tobagonians in general for the October, we have to understand that we are hosting this carnival, and we have to look at the opportunities that is available for us. As I said, you have to know if you are going to be an investor, if you're just going to be participating, or you're going to be working to make that money and building out, whether it be a concierge service, car rental, food, fisher, selling fish, or supplying to whoever vendors. The opportunity is there for you. Take it.
Yeah, I would like to really encourage Tobago creatives to really organize themselves and ensure that they are really ready for international commerce, to really, push their product out there and really capitalize on that. Furthermore, I am also looking forward to the opportunity of working with the Assembly as a visual artist to ensure that we have those tangibles that people would really be excited to come here. They would come for many different things, but when they are here, they would see these things, these sculptures, these painting, important artifacts that promote our icons, and these would be an important catalyst in really pushing the orange economy forward.
So the creative sector in Tobago specifically can be our tool to break through the noise, not just on a local, national, regional, but also on an international level. We no longer just have to send sun, sea, and reef tours and the old nature. We could use culture to break through the noise. I am very proud to be a part of a company, and I have my colleague here, Jared Primer, to be a part of a TPAC that has shown how we can do it. We tested it locally, we tested it nationally, and we intend to test it not just nationally, but regionally and internationally. The company has received endorsements from the UK, Spain, Netherlands. So what we do is going to go international. And this here is creating opportunities, not just for TPAC residents, but all of Tobago. Because there's a trickle-along effect. There are so many different sub areas within this sector that is benefiting, and this is how we build the sector. This is a model that I'm certain that we can utilize in other areas of the creative sector, and we are very thankful for the support of the division. The Secretary Tashia, she has done human service in terms of supporting our initiatives going forward. Mr. Kawan, in terms of really supporting us here in the division, in Shaw Park, and of course the Chief Secretary. So we look forward to great things. The journey has just started, and we're ready for the challenge.
If we are talking about making sense in Tobago, we need to develop from our kindergarten, whatever school you all call them. We need to spend some time on our curriculum and to develop our youth from very small, giving them the opportunity to learn about Tobago so that when they speak, they could speak truthfully. And I also ask that something be done to the culture department in Tobago to be a part of our development.
And I just want to end by speaking to the importance of us changing the noise on the ground, changing the mindset that the creative arts cannot be sustainable. In this conversation, this almost 3-hour-long conversation, we've tossed around so many different possibilities and models of how this can work. So we're definitely clear on how this can work. So what we need to now do is put some engines behind it. And of course, I can't be the film director of TPAC and not talk about film very quickly and talk about the possibilities of film-induced tourism, where even through creating content that showcases our spaces just in the background. And there are studies that show that these are the things that get people to come. So through developing these film programs, through using film tourism, film-induced tourism, cultural tourism through film, we could also increase heads in beds, as we like to say.
So I would like to end by saying that oil and gas may be dry up, but the creative and cultural industry of Tobago is a ticking time bomb of a kaleidoscopic explosion that's just waiting to go off. And once the right mechanisms are put in place and we the artists stay true to quality opposed to quantity, we can be great.
We had quite a productive conversation this evening, and I'm happy we came to this space. And I'm happy that so many of you, some 200 plus of you, decided to just keep in the conversation virtually. Remember that we have people checking all the comments and taking the suggestions down. We have teams looking at these broadcasts and taking notes of the suggestions that are being made here from the conversations. And yes, this is a different way of doing consultations. We have the face-to-face ones, but we really want this virtual engagement so that so many more of you can participate, and we are happy that you have been participating. Our next night will be on Wednesday evening. We will start at 8 p.m. on Wednesday. Wednesday we are dealing with education, something I feel extremely passionate about. On Saturday night we're treating with our young people. Yeah, we're looking at the young and the restless. And on Sunday we're looking at food security and rural development in one. So, and then next week, into the week, we will come towards an end when we deal with the autonomy and the economy, which is perhaps our most important conversation in all of these conversations that we will have. So please look out for the notices of the sessions. We are on a break tomorrow. We resume on Wednesday night, and we look forward to hearing from you then. So have a good night, everybody. God bless you all.